What's up, everybody? Justin Ochoa back with episode 18 of the Gym Sessions podcast. And today's episode is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait for you guys to dive in to this episode. We have on Brandon Wood, who is a professional basketball player, currently playing in Australia, formerly Michigan State Spartan, 10-year pro, going on 11 years. But that is just scratching the surface of this guy's amazing journey and amazing story of how he just continues to fight through adversity and find success in life on and off the court. Um, Man, this episode, I'm going to tell you guys up front now, this episode is 3 hours long, which is the longest episode that I've ever done, but it is so captivating the entire time. Um, I'm locked in the whole time. We get into conversations about basketball, spirituality, fear. Like the range on this episode is insane, and partially because we're talking through Brandon's entire story, which includes injuries, um, coaching disagreements, transferring schools, um, allegations against his character that led to an arrest and eventual dropping of the charges, and clearing of his name, pro career, getting cut as a pro, the tragic loss of his wife, moving on from that tragic loss, restarting this career and in the second half of his basketball career. Like I'm telling you guys, this episode is by far one of my favorites. So many gems in this episode, so many life lessons. Like aside from basketball, this is amazing life lesson episode that's full of Brandon's journey and his story and his unique perspective on all of these things that have helped shape him into the man that he is today. I could not be more happy about how this episode turned out. Super proud of Brandon. Guy, I've known Brandon for some years now, but we've never talked at this level, at this depth, and about some of these topics. So again, I really encourage you guys to dive in, break it up into segments if you have to. This is truly a powerful episode, and I'm super excited for how it turned out. So proud of Brandon, and just honestly just have so much respect for his perspective and his outlook, and the ability for him to share his story in the way that he does is truly phenomenal. So again, episode 18 with my guy Brandon Wood. Check it out. I really hope you guys enjoy it. Brandon, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. I'm glad that we could work it out with the time difference and everything like that. So it's 7 p.m. here. What time is it out there in Australia?
Right after 10 a.m. on March 1st.
That's crazy. So you're a day. Yeah, it's Tuesday night here. It's Wednesday morning there.
Yeah, I'm 17 hours ahead, I believe. Yeah.
Dude, that's insane. So we'll get into, why you're out there and what you're doing out there and everything later on in the show. But first, I kind of just want to let you give an intro, tell everybody who you are and what you do and all that good stuff.
No doubt, man. First off, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on your show.
For sure.
It means a lot to, be able to come on here and share part of my story, part of myself. So much respect to you, for offering a platform and bringing your network together and sharing yourself, allowing people to share their stories, to be vulnerable, to open up, to share some insight and perspective. So first off, much respect towards that. I'm on a similar journey as well with my
Yep.
own podcast, so definitely understand and wanted to show love with that. Born and raised Kokomo, Indiana. So probably you're in Indianapolis, right?
Yep.
So about 30, 45 minutes north of you. Born and raised Kokomo, Indiana. had a great upbringing. Played all the sports. My parents really poured into my sister and myself as far as sports and extracurricular activities, as far as different summer programs that they put us into, signed us up for. A very diverse upbringing. I grew up um, not privileged at all. Um, there were some tough times, but my
Mm-hmm.
parents always kind of protected us from that, so didn't have the worst upbringing, but it definitely, as you get older and reflect, you put the pieces together and really
Mm-hmm.
understand what so I grew up, living in pretty much all the trailer parks in Kokomo. Grew up going to within the Northwestern School Corporation, which was predominantly white corporation. So fortunate to have a foundation of understanding different cultures and being accepted early on. So I really didn't have any victimhood in me, And as I got older, I continued and still continue to understand the history and, society and the systems that are in place. So at an early age, I was really filled with love, from a in-home standpoint, from a um, my friends and their families accepting me into their homes and playing sports with them. And so my life has really been truly based on love, and definitely grateful for that, and definitely seeing the impact and effects now further down the line that had on me. So definitely grateful and appreciative for that. So grew up playing all the sports: baseball, basketball, football, track. Just love to compete. Love to play different sports. Love to be around my friends. That was a big part of it. Just being around your friends and just that fellowship that comes with that, and just playing sports. And on the back end, you realize the impact that really had on you. So
Mm-hmm.
grateful. Um, Left the Northwestern School Corporation, which was like in the county area of Kokomo. There's about 5 or 6 schools, high school corporations around the county, and then there's one school in the city, which is Kokomo High School. So eighth grade, eighth grade came, and I had to make a decision whether I wanted to stay in the county and go to school, or move into the city and have the chance to be honest, for sporting reasons. Do I want to
Mm-hmm.
stay where I'm comfortable, or do I want to get out of my comfort zone and play against players who are more talented and more skilled and stronger and bigger and faster? And that's just a sports side, but even just the life side, just to have the opportunity to continue to mold into the man I am, and to find myself in more diverse circles and have a more diverse group of friends. It definitely added to my growth as a man and as a human,
Mm-hmm.
so definitely grateful for that. So I made the decision to move into the city, played 4 years of high school, didn't really, I played all the sports until high school. And then once I got to high school, I knew it was time just to lock in on the hoop. So played 4 years for Kokomo. Freshman year, played. I was the player who started JV, but just dressed varsity. I didn't get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
minutes my first year. So, but definitely had a great experience being able to dress varsity. I have always been a player and person that really didn't expect too much, because I've always had to really grind and put the work in to get it. So it wasn't a tough situation by any means, kind of in relation to what I assume and see and observe that players deal with these days. These younger players just, if they're not dressing varsity or playing varsity, they're, it's kind of shakes them up. They kind of
Right.
judge themselves. So I really didn't have any of that in me. I was just happy to be there, happy to continue to play. Just play the game that I love. My sophomore year would be my what I would consider my breakout year. I had like a 30-point game, and earned the starting spot my sophomore year. So finished that year, and then junior, senior year had 2 big years. Not necessarily as a team, but as an individual, had very,
Hmm.
very productive years. But my sophomore year was the best high school team that I was on. So finished my career. Had options to go pretty much to probably any mid-major school in the country. Had probably 20, 30 different offers. So yeah, I'll leave it there and let you kind of pick it up from there. I know
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a good start of my journey, but there's been plenty more since then.
Oh yeah. No. So kind of like taking a couple steps back, like you said, growing up in Kokomo, a lot of people don't. They're not going to know what Kokomo is, and I've been in Indy my whole life, and I didn't even know that there was that many different corporations or segments of Kokomo. To have the option to go to other schools within the city of Kokomo. And, I would say Kokomo, like you described, is definitely it's not a privileged area, like it's rough, let's just be honest. It's rough. And
It's a
so,
blue collar city. It's built around factories.
yep.
Chrysler, Delco. My mom worked at Chrysler for 15, 20 years. All my friends and growing up, whether it was in the county or in the city, all of their parents and uncles and grandparents, built a life around um, working in the factory,
Hmm.
putting in a lot of hours and making solid money, but, at the same time, being comfortable and being complacent in some cases, and not really venturing out and being a visionary, to say the least. So definitely grateful for the what type of city it is. Hardworking, a lot of love, a lot of family life. It's a small knit city, but everybody pretty much knows everybody or familiar with everybody. So yeah, definitely a city that's not really known, even in the state
Hmm.
of Indiana. There's a lot more to it than what people probably imagine, but definitely appreciate my upbringing there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's tough. It's gritty. It's like everybody I know from Kokomo, um, is just like not afraid of hard work. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like they just embrace the hard work and embrace any adversity. And
Yeah,
I think that's going kind of diving back into your story. Obviously you've had diversity, or not diversity, adversity, and we'll get into that. But we'll pick it up where you left off. Choosing a college, and I know that you've had a couple spots that you've played college ball at, and then now you're obviously in your professional career. But talk about that first decision. I believe it was it NIU that you went to first, or
SIU.
SIU? Yeah. So what stood out there? Um, what what was that decision like, and then what ultimately led to you leaving there and finding Valparaiso?
Sure, sure. So back when we were coming up, that's when we were getting
Mm-hmm.
letters in the mail. So I was getting like 100 letters of mail a day, and probably 25 of those letters were from SIU. And it would be just postcards with quotes on it, little short messages from the assistant coaches. Just a variety of different, just love. Just them showing
Yeah.
love. Motivational quotes, sending a little couple words of advice, and just showing their interest in me joining their family and being a Saluki, or that's pretty much from every school. So it's cool to look back and remember the times when we actually got
Yeah.
physical mail. So I was getting letters, from a lot of different mid majors. I played very well, not only in high school, but most importantly in the AAU circuit. So I never really played like on the top teams. Um, I kind of was like, I wouldn't say I was underrated, but I was like, I wasn't considered one of the top players in the 2007 class, which is one of the best classes
Oh yeah.
ever. I was like
Yeah.
the probably like the 15, 20, like the 20, 30 range, but if you played against me and seeing my game, like I was kind of like, I guess you consider maybe underrated, but I never really played for like the top teams, so it kind of
Mhm.
goes back like I remember like looking on the internet, looking on message boards, searching for my name and waiting to see
Yeah.
my name type when I did on the rare occasions that I did. But like I never really expected nothing. I was just so in the moment and just love to play, So I played on like the mid-level, lower level teams, which I think really helped my development because we might have not won tournaments and won majority of the games, but I really got to develop as a player. I got to play my game really from the beginning, so I've
Right.
had the most confidence. I've got to play through mistakes. I've had, like I said, the confidence, so it played out perfect for me, even though like in the moment you want to play for those top teams, and
Right.
I did end up playing for the Spies, for a Spies team, but it wasn't like the top team in my grade. It was like the second or third team. But yeah, so SIU was the first school that really like showed a lot of interest, whether it was calling me every other day, calling my parents, talking to them, getting to know my family. And then that combined with the letters, um, I knew that they were very interested, and I knew that they were coming off of a Sweet 16 year the year before I committed, but to kind of go back and add some context to the story, I actually was going to commit to Butler, so
Oh, damn.
I was gonna commit to Butler. I was set and locked with Butler. So I had the Butler visit scheduled, and I had the SIU visit scheduled for the following weekend. There was some interest from Army as well. Once it got serious, it really came down to Butler, SIU, and Army. I felt one of the top players that ever played at Kokomo, Matt Bell. He played at Army, so I knew I wasn't gonna go there, but out of respect for him and respect
Yeah.
for the Army, I wanted them to be along through that process, So it really came down to Butler, SIU, and Army. Um, so I went on my Butler visit. Had a great visit. That's when Coach Brad Stevens he was the one the guy recruit me, the coach recruit me. So he'd be coming to Kokomo like, once a week, coming to practices, watching our practices. So that's cool to look back on now to see where his journey is taking him and
Mhm.
kind of yeah, Brad Stevens. He used to come to my high school when he was trying to work his become a college coach. So it's cool to have that little synergy within our journey,
Mhm.
Uh, so I had a great visit at Butler. Got to meet the coaches, got to meet the players. That's when Mike Green was the top player there, so he was kind of hosting me around the campus. So I had a great visit, and then at the meeting before we departed from the visit, my family and I were sitting in the room, and they had one scholarship offer on the to go. Like they had one scholarship to offer, and they told me that they were going to offer it to me, and then they were going to offer it to Sean Van Zant. So
Oh,
they only
that's
had
a
one
name
scholarship.
right there. I haven't heard that name in a minute.
Yeah, so they had one scholarship that they offered to me, and they were going to offer to him. So they made it known, if he takes the scholarship, there's no scholarship left, But out of my loyalty, I'm a very loyal person. So out of my loyalty and the love and the involvement that SIU had early on, the first school that really showed me that high level interest, I kind of felt like I owed it. I owed it to them to go on that visit the following weekend, even just out of respect for them and their
Mhm.
commitment to me, So I'm like, okay, I understand that there's one scholarship. I understand that you're offering it to two players, but out of my loyalty to them, I want to go on this visit, and then after the visit, I'll commit to you guys. I'll sign my, letter of intent. So this was on the weekend. So about Thursday before the weekend visit at SIU, I get a call from them, and they tell me that Van Zant committed. So that scholarship was off the table. So went to SIU, had a great fun visit there. And like I said, they were coming off of a Sweet 16 year, so they were coming off arguably their best year ever, or at least one of them. So I mean, still a great opportunity to play for a high mid major team. that had great chemistry with the team that they had coming back. So went on that visit and kind of had to make that commitment to SIU, even though I was cool with it. It was okay, but I was committed mentally to Butler for sure.
Dude,
Yeah.
so kind of backtrack on a few things you said there. First off, people don't realize Indiana high school basketball is it's in a class of its own when it comes to high school basketball. Still to this day. Now, I was class of '08. You were class before me, '07. People don't realize some of the people, the names that were in your class. We're talking like Eric Gordon, Etwan Moore, Jeff Teague, obviously yourself. I'm trying to think of some other. There was a big that was pretty solid.
Jawan,
Um, yeah, yep. And it's
John,
like Juwan Johnson. There was so much talent. There was Marion had two guys that both went to NC State. Anyway, basically kids didn't play varsity like freshman year. Like
yeah,
you just didn't play varsity your freshman year. Teams were
yeah,
too competitive and they were too stacked, and people didn't like transfer high schools that much.
yeah,
Like if you did, you actually moved to like a different area. It wasn't like, oh, this team has 5 seniors, so I don't want to go there. It's like, no, you went to uh, this middle school, it feeds into this high school or this area. That's where you go and you just do
yeah,
it. And it's like people don't realize like I didn't. I don't think I played. I don't think I even sniffed varsity until my junior year. It's like you
yeah,
have too many upperclassmen in front of you, and the talent was just through the roof, man. It was just like to play varsity even as a sophomore was like pretty rare. And I knew I played with Walter Office, so he was the one guy that I knew in my class that like started varsity as a freshman, and obviously he went to Ohio State. You know what I mean? It's like there's special people out there that are going to do that, but for the most part, man, you got to wait your turn. Like you're not going to play freshman, but you play JV, dress varsity. You might do like 2 quarters or whatever, but you're not like that. What kids know about varsity today,
yeah. It's
that was
completely different.
not the case. That was not the
Yeah,
case, man. So throwing that in there, I just wanted to add some context because there's some crazy, crazy names in the class of '07 from Indiana. And then if you look like nationally, like I think Jeff Teague on his podcast the other day was talking about some of the names. Like, dude, he wasn't even, I think he was like number 47 in the class.
yeah,
It's like what? Who was 46 better high school players than Jeff Teague? I don't understand. So,
yeah.
yeah, I told you I'll go on rants, man. I don't even know where I was
Nah, you
going with
good.
that one, but it's like it's people just don't
So
understand.
yeah, nah, I enjoyed it. So it's all good. We good. I ain't
Yeah,
got no.
but going to SIU, you had a good freshman year. Going back to playing as a freshman, contributing, being productive, and then do you have a broken foot or some type of injury that came up? What's the background there? And then did that ultimately lead you to a new school?
So kind of taking it back a little bit, my senior year of high school, I had dislocated my shoulder 3 times.
Hmm.
So I was in practice and dislocated once, kind of got hit from behind. Um, I was in swimming class and I was doing a backstroke and I hit the lane line and dislocated it. And then
Mm.
one day I was at the park and I went up for a dunk and dunked it real hard and popped out my shoulder again. Was trying to hit it against the pole to knock it back in. So I had a shoulder that I was kind of managing my whole senior year. I had to wear like one of the, I forget what it's called, one of like the sleeves that you got to wrap all the way
Yep.
around you, wrap around your stomach. So so I had surgery following my senior season on my shoulder, and had to rest for like 3 or 4 months. So going into the summer of SIU, you know how important it is that all summers when you're playing for a university, but let alone your freshman summer, getting there, getting established, and understand the
Right.
the game, the strength of the game, the workload on the court, off the court. So I didn't get to experience that at all because I was rehabbing my shoulder. So I didn't get to. I was on campus taking a couple of classes, but I really didn't get to, go through any weight sessions. I didn't get to go through any individuals. I didn't really get to do much conditioning. So headed into the fall, I really just was just focusing on getting healthy, and getting healthy enough just to be able to practice. So I was coming off my shoulder injury. The fall started, and um, man, I was in a situation where like they were really pushing us to the limits, mentally, physically, and I wasn't prepared mentally or physically. I wouldn't. I didn't know what I was getting myself into physically, but that was still back when coaches really didn't have any regard and
Mm.
didn't really have to have any restraint. So like just the belittlement, just the way that they were demeaning us and just the calling us out of our names. We're 17, 18-year-old young boys who are developing into young men, so it was at like a real pivotal point for a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
so mentally, like, I completely lost the love for the game. I completely lost the confidence that I had built through my whole life. And I really didn't even want to hoop anymore, just based on just just did not wanting to get up and go to practice, not having fun, not enjoying it, So really that's probably like the one point in my career and like in my life that I like really questioned like, do I really want to do this, or like and really like, and even off the court, I was a freshman in college, first time really away from home. So just being opened up and subjected to everything that comes from
Right.
a university, art university, where I'm experiencing myself and things in ways I never had, So I was at a point to where like I didn't love the game no more. I didn't want to hoop, I didn't have no confidence on the court, and I was really just kicking it off the court, just having fun,
Mm-hmm.
had good people around me to where like that made it fun, just and that allowed me to be able to make it through that year, just kicking it, hanging out, doing what we do off the court, So that was a tough stretch, to where I was coming off an injury, and just the style of play wasn't fit for me. It's like they tell you how much they want you and this and that, but then I got there and like at that point I really wasn't a I had no I didn't want to play. I wasn't a defender, I didn't willingly want to defend. I wasn't like in high school I didn't really have to. I just had to kill, get buckets
Yeah.
and produce and make plays and just score, but I didn't really I wasn't there. SIU style then was like all defense, pick up full court, you chop in with your hands on a closeout, full court, 94 feet, so just like little
Yep.
things like, it wasn't a fit for me, so all that combined, um, I played like the first 6 games of the season, and I had been playing on a fractured lower leg for like weeks, probably months at that point, and like it was just painful. Every time I get warmed up and get in practice or get like in a game, like I wouldn't feel it, but like then like through everyday life, and outside off the court, outside the weight room, like I was in so much pain, but like my coaches weren't listening to me. They didn't take it serious, they didn't respect what I was
Yep.
saying. They really just weren't trying to hear that shit. So I'm like, I got to the point to where like I got an X-ray and they're like, yeah, you got a stress fracture in your lower leg, it could have really broke any time, and I'm like, I've been telling y'all this the whole time. Like now, now you take it serious, but at the end of the day, like it really showed me that was like the first time I got pushed outside of my limits, So like um, although it was overboard, and although it was that thin line of coaching hard and holding accountable and putting that pressure on the players, it was definitely crossed by far. But I really pushed my limits, and I was pushing myself through it all, mentally and physically. So that's something that I look back on and that I'm proud of. So I played like 6 games. The first game, I think it was my first game or one of the games within them 6 games, I had like 15 points against Northern Illinois. So if I would have continued on playing for the year, I would have ended up starting. I would have ended up having a big role. But right the game after I told them like I needed to get an X-ray, and I got the X-ray, came back that was a stress fracture. Stress fracture. That was the limit of being able to medical redshirt. So it was like kind of
Mm.
perfect. Where like, okay, like yeah, I'm medical redshirt. I'm not gonna try to recover and get back from this too soon. I'm gonna just medical redshirt, and then just get healthy and get ready for next year. So it definitely worked out in my favor considering I got that year on the back end. And that was a special, amazing, surreal year. So it
Hmm.
worked out in my favor. But I feel like I would have had a great freshman year if I would have stayed healthy. If I would have continued on the path I was on. Because although I was going through all that, I didn't really know how mentally tough I was until like even now looking back on it, like damn, like I was going through all that on the court, off the court, dealing with the coaches, dealing with their style that isn't a style that I respect, but I was still producing through it, so that just shows like my mental toughness and my confidence on the court, and just like I was comfortable still playing my game, and being aggressive and being myself, so um started with the injury, and then I could have went to another D1 right after that, but that would have been like that was when there was no portal, so that was when we would have had to
Mm.
sit another year. So that would have been where I was at mentally and not really wanting to hoop no more. I remember calling my parents and telling them, I just want to go back home and come to go to U of Indy and just focus on my education. I'll play just to get my education, but I don't really have much aspiration to really play anymore. So I remember those conversations. So to go to another D1 and have to sit out another year, it just really it wasn't realistic for me. So I one of my good friends, Lamar Lee, he had transferred from his school his freshman year. We were in the same class, and he had already signed and locked in with a JUCO. When he found out that I wasn't under, I was gonna say under contract. You kind of are under contract.
Yeah.
I wasn't with you anymore. He called me, and he pretty much offered me a scholarship to come there to the and told me it'd be a comfortable situation. We had the housing, we had the meal plans, we got the access to the gyms 24/7. We got a lot of D1 players coming in, so we'd have a great team. So I trusted him, and I bet on myself and went JUCO.
That's crazy too, because yeah, like you said, this was before the portal. This was when you had to sit out a year if you go, D1 to D1 or D2 to D2 or whatever. I think actually just NCAA to NCAA. So you would have had to go NAIA or JUCO.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
dude, back then, man, like the JUCOs were crazy because like guys who really wanted to transfer, like you really had to want to transfer to have to go through all that. And some guys decided to go sit the year. Some guys would go JUCO, but then you get all this culmination of like D1 talent at one JUCO, and it's like holy shit, that is a crazy team right there in the middle of freaking nowhere in Nebraska, some like community college that nobody's ever heard of. So talk about your JUCO experience, man. That's from what I've heard. I mean, I haven't experienced it myself, but I've heard JUCO that makes you or breaks you, and that kind of tells you like how much you really love the game.
100%. And it made me. It definitely
Yeah.
made me even today. So I did have a JUCO situation where we did have like 8 or 9 D1 transfers coming in. So obviously, first off, got to meet a bunch of cool, great guys from different areas of the country, and just still have relationships with them to this day. So that was cool just to have that experience of getting to know players and being around players who are in a similar situation to myself, trying to get back to that next level, So, um, like I said, my JUCO year it definitely made me. It was a comfortable situation. I know some JUCOs You don't really know what you're getting yourself into, but I went to Highland Community College, ran by a guy named Pete Norman. He was the AD, he was our head coach, and he was pretty much our counselor. So like he put us in all our classes. He ran the practices, and then he had to manage other sports as well, So definitely big shout out to him. He's been at Highland for like 30, 40 years, Now his son is taking over the head coaching job, which I still have a good relationship with. Sent a couple players there actually, so definitely proud of that. Um, but yeah, bro, like the JUCO year definitely made me, It made me in the sense of, you know, we didn't have the weight trainers, we didn't have the basketball trainers, that was I refer to my JUCO year as the year where I really had to develop my work ethic individually, and find that drive inside of me. I didn't
Right.
have anybody pushing me. I didn't really have my coach who was there, great coach, great motivator, but obviously had a lot of other stuff going on. The assistant coach at JUCO, you know, sometimes we had great assistant coaches, but sometimes they're kind of just doing their own thing, paving their own way as well. So really didn't have anybody pushing us from the sense of a coaching standpoint in our own time, but and we had a lot of free time, So I'm thankful for Lamar being there. Lamar was already a player who had already developed that self drive and that self work ethic within himself. So I kind of got to be alongside him. We were roommates. We spent a lot of time together. We would always go to the gym and put up a lot of shots. Put our skill work in, get in the weight room. That was like the first time I really had to get in the weight room on my own. So that year really established my work ethic, the work ethic that is growing to this day, to this week, still growing, So definitely give credit to that year for that, But at the same time, there's so many JUCO guys who go to the JUCO and relax,
Hmm.
and don't approach the grind as they should, So, um, I was just so passionate about the game, and I truly did love the game, even though I felt out of love with it. So that year gave me a chance to get fully healthy. Following the shoulder surgery, following the stress fracture in my leg. Get my confidence back. Following the coaching styles that I was within. So that year not only built my work ethic, but it gave me the love for the game back, and it gave me my confidence back. So I had a chance to just play. Play my game, have fun, play through mistakes, and just understand that you just got to kind of go with the flow, So one year
Hmm.
at a Division 1, the next year at JUCO, then you find yourself at Division 1 again, and then you find yourself at the highest level of Division 1. So my career has been kind of based on going with the flow, and that really showed to myself like, you know, I was able to. I really never had too many expectations on myself, or like for my career or for my journey. I never really thought I was supposed to be here, or I was meant to be here, or I deserved to be here. Like I was grateful to be at a JUCO playing the game that I love. Simple as that. I was just really in the moment before I even knew the importance of that. So that year was a very great year as far as like my foundation that I'm still building to this day. Went on to win our regional championship. Went on to go to the Hutch, the national tournament, which is called Hutch in Kansas. We finished seventh place at the national tournament. Um, so yeah, that was a great year, and what I recognized going to the JUCO, we had a lot of skilled and talented players coming in, So me not really playing for the previous year, finishing my freshman year like playing in the rec, because I remember like they tried to get me to come back and play at the end of the year, but I like another kind of another way of how I'm built. Like I've always stood up for myself, and I've always followed what I felt was meant to be followed and moved how I wanted to move. So like I remember they were trying, and this sounds crazy that I think about it. Like I was under scholarship with them. I was playing at the rec during the season. Like I was getting back healthy, but I was playing at the rec while the season was still going on. But I'm like, I'm not playing for y'all no more. Like, I'm not coming back to play. Like, I'm standing on medical red shirt. You know, y'all like I'm not like I really don't be here, but
Yeah.
like no, I'm cool. I'm gonna just keep playing in the rec.
It's like
Until
holding out, holding out of your
I
contract.
definitely did, and that's crazy as hell. That's crazy, but like that's kind of just that's kind of like how I've always moved. You know, it's some situations you can say it. Some people will perceive it as it didn't go in my favor, but like it's always went in my favor. You know,
Hmm.
so I'm good with that. And you know, going to kind of go where I was going with it, like there was players coming from different D1s, you know, different skilled players. So I hadn't played really outside of the rec my freshman year. So like I remember the first open gyms at my JUCO, I'm like damn, like these boys, you know, they're more athletic than me. You know, they're skilled, more skilled than me. You know, I was always a confident player, but you know, I respect players. You know, and I was a fan of players. You know, and I didn't mind like looking at someone like damn, like he might be able to jump higher than me. He might be able to be faster and more. He was definitely more explosive than me because at that point I really hadn't developed my explosion, you know, so or my
Hmm.
speed. So like I remember in them open gyms, like you know, damn, like I don't know, I'm gonna have to perform. You know, I don't know if it's not just gonna be given to me. Like I'm gonna have to go and take it. You know, and then once we got into practice and the flow of practice and the gameplay, like I think that's like when my IQ would kick in. You know, I always had a good feel for the game on offense and on defense. SIU really showed me like the spacing. You know, I really learned the spacing of the game at SIU. Although what I was going through, you know, the defensive spacing as far as help side, first line off the ball, second line off the ball. You know, I really learned the spacing and the help side, and then even on offense, you know, just knowing, you know, the different spots on the court, knowing where to lift to when the player comes off the screen, knowing when to drift baseline when the player's driving baseline on the other side. You know, so I learned all those little things my freshman year that I think really set me apart my JUCO year once it came time to play. And, you know, just my IQ kind of kicked in to where, you know, a lot of players at the JUCO level are still, they just want to hoop, you know, they just want to go
Hmm.
out there and play ball. You know, so I ended up one of the, like the first or second open gym at Highland. Homer Drew and Bryce Drew came and watched the open gym. So this is in them same moments where I was like, you know, I don't know, this not going to be given to me. You know, I'm gonna have to go out here and just, you know, just play well, and you know, hopefully I get a big role, and hopefully I have a big role and have a great year. You know, so Homer and Bryce Drew, I remember them walking in the door like the first or second open gym, after the open gym, you know, they introduced themselves to me. I really wasn't familiar with Valpo at all. Wasn't familiar with Bryce, you know, and his career at all. Wasn't familiar with Homer and their family at all, you know. So it was all new to me, you know. But you know, I felt, you know, just I never at that point, you know, I had good people in my life, specifically like, and I'm mixed. I'm biracial. So my mom is white, my dad is black. You know, I've had at that point I had great white people in my life to that point that like I go to before, like I've always felt comfortable wherever I'm at. I've always felt welcome. I've always felt love all around. You know, but it was something about them, how like I was looking in their eyes and I can remember like just how they were looking into my eyes and like the the presence that they had, you know, like they really were engaged with me, you know. And obviously I was getting older, you know, I
Hmm.
was here at college, you know, so a little bit more aware, you know, a little bit more attentive, you know. So I just remembered like most importantly, just their engagement with me. You know, their eye contact. You know, they were really listening to me. You know, they're great, amazing listeners. You know, and I'm able to lean on them to this day. You know, so that's what I noticed first. You know, just how they were engaged with me. You know, and then they caught me up on Valpo and the history of Valpo. You know, mid major level, good mid major school, had success in the recent years in the history of the school. And then obviously Bryce introduced himself, you know, his career of Valpo, hitting that shot in the tournament, going on, having an NBA career, you know, so obviously that had my attention, you know, the assistant coach, you know, played in the NBA. And then they told me the non-conference schedule. Playing at North Carolina the coming year, playing at Michigan State the coming year, playing in a tournament in Las Vegas the coming year, and just having already a core of guys that were there in the team. So from the standpoint of their presence and engagement with me and how they were really listening to me, their history as far as their family, the Drew family, the history of the school, and the non-conference schedule. That's what really sealed the deal. I'm gonna get to play at North Carolina. I'm gonna get a chance to play at Michigan State. I'm gonna get a chance to go to Las Vegas and play in a tournament. So I ended up committing and signing to them before my JUCO year even began. And that
Damn,
and that
that's
speaks,
crazy.
yeah, that kind of speaks for like I've always kind of went with what I know, my intuition. I've went before I even knew what that was.
Mm,
Like I went with what I felt was right, and never second guessed it. Even going back to that decision my eighth grade year, once seen the opportunity, I remember my parents shared with me, it was after like a summer league game. We pulled into our driveway. I had like a court set up right there. We had a light that was right above the house. So I remember like that was when my dad like told me what an informed decision was. He was like, "So son, this is an informed decision. These are the pros of staying at Northwestern. These are the pros and cons of going to Kokomo, and they put the decision in my hands, as an eighth grader. They really put the decision completely on me. And once I kind of assessed it, I had no second guess. Like I'm going to Kokomo. I had no doubts, had
hmm
no second, I had no fear, and it kind of goes and applies in the situation at my JUCO as well. Like, when I heard what they shared with me as far as Valpo, their family, the non-conference schedule, I'm like, okay, like I'm making this decision now. This will give me even more of a chance to get my confidence back through the season, to get healthy, to not have to worry about getting a scholarship. They're already offering me a school full ride scholarship in my home state. About an hour and a half north of Kokomo. So kind of like a perfect situation, which was kind of destined. And it kind of just came to me. So I committed, had the full season, had a great season, and that kind of just led into my year of Alpo.
Dude, that's crazy. I mean, it says a lot about them too because they offered you and never really got to see you at 100%. Like
Exactly.
if they watch film from SIU, they're watching you on a broken leg with a jacked up shoulder.
Yeah,
And they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, we like what we see, or we see the potential," or they see you at your JUCO, and you're still kind of trying to get your confidence back and trying to get your love for the game back. So it's like almost they had that intuition too, where it's like, "Yeah, we like this kid. We like what he stands for." I think at Valpo too, like they're recruiting people too, like big time, like
yeah,
humans. Like they want to see you be um high character. Obviously, basketball, all that stuff matters, but like Bryce Drew, Homer Drew, Valpo, like just that school is like high level of human. Like
yeah.
you can't
Sure.
just get in there any type of way. Like that's a different kind of school. So I think that intuition they probably had that too, and I guess it paid off. So you end up at Valpo. How many years did you play there before you end up at Michigan State? Which is what we'll probably talk a lot about because that journey is crazy. Just thinking, just saying it out loud. You know what I mean? You go from broken leg, messed up shoulder, JUCO, and then you end up finishing your senior year, that red shirt year that you got back at Michigan State with Tom Izzo and Draymond Green, Adrian Payne, like
Yeah,
a bunch of NBA dudes, a bunch of pro dudes, and one of the best coaches of all time.
yeah, yeah. So following my JUCO season, um, there's a group called Athletes in Action. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Yep.
So like a mission-based group, a faith-based group. Um, And following the season, Homer kind of approached my family and I and told me that he wanted to send me to Europe. He wanted to send me to Europe for like 2 or 3 weeks. So at that point, I had never been overseas. I had never been anywhere in Europe, anywhere outside of America. So he he gave me my first opportunity to go overseas and experience different cultures and play overseas, and that journey and that experience was a great step for my development as a young man as well, outside of the game. So um, definitely appreciative for that opportunity that led me into my first year of Valpo. I got to go to Poland. I got to go to Germany. I got to visit Auschwitz concentration camp. So I went all through the concentration camp. So just to get that experience of being abroad and start that development of the worldly perspective that I have now, that was a great starting point. So grateful for that. Um, Went to Valpo for 2 years, so the first game of the season we played against Ball State, so I got to play at Ball State my first game
Oh,
back.
that's homecoming right there, basically.
Yeah, back at the Division I level, got to play against Ball State my first game back. Had 26 that game. Got to play against my boy Jared Jones. I don't know, Jared. I'm sure you know Jared.
Yep, yep,
I got to play against Jared. Obviously being back at home in Muncie. Same 765 area. So that was
yep.
cool to play there. Had 26. We took a loss, but it was
I was gonna say those Ball State teams were good, man.
it,
They had
Ben
Jared, they had
Botts, Malik
who's
Perry,
Malik Perry, yep. Pierce Sneed was there. They had Randy, a white point guard. I think his name was Randy
Davis.
Davis.
I think it's
Yeah, yeah, solid. They had a bunch of solid dudes, man.
yeah. They had a great team. So yeah, played against them my first game, and then we traveled to North Carolina. Then we traveled to North Carolina to play in the Dean Smith Center against North Carolina.
That's
So
crazy.
that second game of the season, and that's the game that put me on the map. That where I made a name for myself nationally. I had 30 points at North Carolina, and at the time, there hadn't been an underclassman that had scored 30 points at North Carolina in their arena. So at the time, I was the only underclassman that scored 30 at North Carolina. So that kind of put me on the map, I was able to build from there, So I think 2 or 3 games later, went to East Lansing and played at Michigan State, where I had 24 points, So to have 24 at Michigan State, I was like, okay, like, I'm here now,
Hmm.
I'm here, I'm killing the best teams in the country at their places, So it kind of just speaks for just staying ready, and sticking to the grind and keeping my passion, and just kind of believing in myself, because that's a great start to be back on the Division I level, So after that, didn't have the greatest season as a team. We won some games, lost some games. Um, but overall, personally, I couldn't have asked for a better year. I was, I believe, newcomer of the year in the Horizon League. I was, I believe, second team All NABC region, like for the Midwest region. Um, like I believe second team All Conference. So I had like the personal accolades, like which I definitely was proud of. So um, couldn't have asked for a better first year of Valpo. Going into the second year, Bryce really challenged me because up until that point, and even still kind of to this day, I'm more so of a player that leads by example. I've
Hmm.
led by example. I haven't always been the most vocal. I haven't always felt the most or even felt the need or understood the what could come from holding teammates accountable. I was just like, as long as I'm working hard and producing and doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm doing my job. So into my second year of Valpo, Bryce really challenged me to take a step as a leader, and not only lead by example in the drills, but like make sure you're the first one in every drill, make sure you're the first one to the gym and last one to leave, which I kind of already had that in me, but to really do it intentionally for the bigger picture, I wasn't really aware of how that would rub off onto the team, so I took little steps to become a better leader into that year. My numbers went down a little bit, but I was like runner up for player of the year. I think Gordon Hayward or Norris Cole got it, but I was like right there in the top three for the votes for that. First team all conference, first team all tournament. Had a lot of big games, a lot of 20-point games, 30-point games. So I had a great second year as well, and we got better as a team. You know, we were like one game from winning our conference tournament to take us to the NCAA tournament, and we pretty much knew we weren't going to get in as at large bid, but you know there was a little hope there to where like we had a better season, you know, to be proud of, you know, moving forward from the last season. So those 2 years, you know, for myself, went great. You know, on the court, off the court. Um, I was an hour and a half from home, you know, so my family got to come to my games. My grandparents got to come to the games. Some of my friends got to come to the games, you know, so that was cool to be close to home. And there was a time difference, you know, so I could go home to Kokomo and be there and and like say I got class Monday morning at 8 a.m. It's an hour and a half away, but there's an hour time difference. So I could be in Kokomo until 7:30 and get to class on time at 8. You know, so like I took advantage of that for sure. You know, so I was still at home, still my people at home, still, you know, up to no good. Uh, but
Dude,
yeah, it
time
was
time changes just blow my mind, by the way. Like that
cool.
just it doesn't make sense how you can do that.
Yeah, I definitely
It's just
leveraged
crazy.
my favor. So that was cool, you know. Yeah, that was a great 2 years, you know, just learning under Homer, learning under Bryce, the other assistant coaches, you know, getting to know them, getting to know my teammates who you know, some of them, most of them, we still have some type of connection to this day. So it was a great 2 years, you know, from you know, a athlete standpoint, growing as a basketball player, getting stronger physically, getting fully healthy, reaching the level of confidence that I had, you know, continuing to grow my confidence, the excitement, you know, that comes with just, you know, playing well and having people watching you and building that name for yourself, you know, just seeing how all that continues to come together, you know, it was exciting, you know, and I was being a player like from Indiana, kind of a player that wasn't like considered a top five, top 10 player. I wasn't an Indiana All Star. I got to play in the North South game, but like I wasn't an Indiana All Star, so that kind of shows you like I wasn't one of the top 20 players in the class. You know, I was kind of like right there after that. So, you know, I was just grateful, you know, to be playing at a high level, to be producing, and you know, just to be making a name for myself. You know, that was it was special. You know, and I didn't take it for granted.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. You just taking advantage of the opportunities that you have and just making those the big time scenario. You know what I mean? So I think so many players get that wrong. Where, like you said, you're getting hundreds of letters in high school um, a week, and you're probably getting some high major letters, right? You're probably getting some of these Big Ten teams or some of the Midwestern high majors, and they're the
Really, bro,
interest.
I didn't
You
get
didn't
any
get
of those.
any,
The only
really.
letter I got from a high major was Wisconsin. So I would get
Mm,
letters from Wisconsin here and there, but like I wasn't recruited from by Purdue, wasn't recruited by Indiana. A little, I think I got a little bit of interest from Indiana, but it wasn't really anything that
yeah,
was
just
substantial.
like
Like
talking.
I got to go to like a game and sit behind the bench for free. You know, I got that experience. You know, but they weren't really like recruiting me to come there. They
Yeah,
didn't offer scholarships, so like I didn't get any offers from no Notre Dame, no Purdue, no Indiana. Valpo was recruiting me out of high school, so that's how they
got
kind
you.
of. But I was just a mid major player. I could have went to
That's
really
crazy.
any mid major, but like really didn't get any high major interest.
So even then, I'm the basically I was just getting at, going where you're gonna shine, going where you're gonna play, going where like they're gonna value you. Like you mentioned, sitting behind the bench for free. I remember I did that at a school. I'm not gonna say who it is, but I was just like, "What the fuck am I doing here? Like these dudes ain't even talking to me. Like, they
Yeah,
didn't probably even know who I was or why I was there." Me and my mom left there like, "Okay, well, back to the drawing board. I guess that's not gonna happen."
and that was it, man. It's like I was big. It was a lot of my story has always been bigger than what I was within at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
not kind of relating to that, but I remember like I was like, man, I gotta get fresh. I gotta wear. I remember that was like when we were wearing the tall tee. So I remember I had a
Oh
tall tee
yeah.
on with a like the most colorful Bape hoodie with like some patent leather green Air Force Ones. So I probably stood out like a sore thumb. But it's like kind of how it's played out. And it's added to my journey and just how aligned it's been. So at that game at the time, I believe Coach Ray McCollum was the assistant coach for
Mm.
Indiana. Ray McCollum, his niece is my wife, Ajaline, and she was there. She was behind the bench right there. And I remember we've seen each other, but we really didn't like we didn't know each other. Like I didn't really know Ray at the time. I didn't know her or her family at the time, her brothers Jalen and Jarab. But like we were both there together. So it's
That
like,
is insane.
that she hears me right now, but like that's kind of how it's played out. So like it's been special for a long time, bro. It's been
That
special
is insane, man. We'll come back to that too because I do want to talk about that if you're open to it.
for
Um,
sure.
but I want to get into
Take
Michigan
your time.
State.
Take your time. I got time. As long as you don't got nothing to do, I got all the time.
Bet. Perfect,
Yeah,
man. So Michigan State. I mean, obviously you kill at Valpo. You get two really really productive years there. Um, and like you said, you made a name for yourself. So I'm assuming you graduated at some point in there, and then you get like a grad year, or you get your red shirt year back, and you're thinking, all right, I've proved I can play at this level. Do I want to test the waters? Do I want to look at what the NBA draft looks like? Or, potentially come back to school, stay here, maybe try to level up. Initially or eventually you did end up at Michigan State, but what was that process like? Because I know that's kind of another fork in the road where it's like this is a life changing decision. I've seen people make that decision and fuck it up, and they go really bad. So, talk about what your process was and how you ended up at Michigan State.
definitely, man. Amazing story, man. So I'm gonna give you the whole context, and I've never shared this before, so it's gonna be cool. So at finishing my second year at Valpo, I was on track to graduate. I graduated. Um, Another crazy little tidbit, like I had at that point I had went to SIU, Highland, Valpo for 2 years. So like my classes were like all over the place.
Mm.
I had over credits, but like you couldn't really box my class load into a degree, So there's a I don't know what you would call it. There's like an opportunity to, if that's the case, there's an opportunity called a specialized major. So with a specialized major, it's like it's for someone like myself who's got all the credits, but there's not really a degree that fits all the classes that you pick. So with that being said, I got to go the specialized um, degree route to where I got to name my bachelor's degree myself.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so our mindset behind it, like most of the core of my classes were like marketing classes, like sports marketing classes. But I took like a wide variety of classes. But like we knew that I knew that I wanted to have the word business in my degree, the name of my degree. So although the core classes that I took at Valpo were sports marketing classes, I ended up naming it a sports marketing and business degree. So I have a bachelor's in sports marketing and business.
That's
So like
dope.
yeah, it's a little thing, like just thinking big picture. And my father had got his bachelor's and master's from Purdue and IU. So he kind of was able to guide me through that and like kind of told me like we need to keep that word business in your title of your degree. So that's a cool little story that I've been able to build on as far as my business endeavors.
For sure.
So
That's dope.
so graduated there with the sports marketing and business degree. and I had some options, like you said. I could either come back to Valpo for my 5th year. I could go overseas. I just graduated. I could go overseas and start a career overseas, um, or I could put my name in the NBA draft. So I ended up going through the process and put my name into the NBA draft, because you're able to put your name in and take it out one time without it holding it against you. So I'm like, I want to get the feedback from the NBA teams, as far as what they want to see from me at the next level. So that was a no-brainer. Put my name in the draft, had to go through the paperwork. You know, I knew I was going to pull my name out before the deadline, but I was able to get the feedback from different people and different teams. Um, so in the midst of taking my name out of the draft, we had the meeting, like the end of the year meeting with the coaches. So Homer, Bryce, the athletic director, Mark LaBarbera, my mom, my dad, my sister, and myself. We were all sitting in the office for a meeting. Just for them to kind of assess the year, tell us their perspective, how it went, their vision moving forward, and to see kind of what we thought, how the year went, and kind of how we felt as a family. Um, so obviously at the time I was in the draft, but it was a meeting that was led by Homer and Bryce, so they were going through the options, like, you just graduated, we're proud of you, congratulations. You have this fifth year of eligibility due to medical redshirt in your first year, so you could, leave your name in the draft and just see what happens. Whether you get summer league or I really wasn't positioned to get drafted at the time, but you know you can leave your name in and see what happens. Worst come to worst, you go overseas and start your professional career overseas. So they were, telling me the different options, telling us the different options, and once they finished, telling us those options, um, my dad was like, so we're aware that there's another option, and that's, considering Brandon graduated and he has another year of eligibility, there's an option for him to open up his recruitment and go and play anywhere in the country without sitting out. And right when he made that option, put the option on the table, like, complete shock, on their faces, complete, like, started turning red. Not that they were angry. They might have felt some anger within at the moment, but it kind of like shook them. It kind of triggered them, kind of, you know. So they kind of like were kind of pleading their case, with, I think once we brought it up, they kind of already knew that I was kind of set on that decision. And I'll share with you how that even came about. But they kind of asked my mom and sister and I to leave the room and kept my dad in there and kind of just talked to him. Yeah, they talked to him, like, to kind of get the depth of the situation from our standpoint, and my dad, very intelligent, very good at articulating himself, so he just kind of broke it down to them, kind of what we were thinking, and the opportunity that was in front of us, so kind of to backtrack, my dad, so um, I was in the draft, and it kind of, so at the time my dad was working at Purdue. So he was working in the marketing department at Purdue. And at the time, at the end of the season, this is like a few weeks or like a month or so before we were in the midst of making the decision. Um, I grew up, the speech team that I played for was coached by Keenan Barlow's dad. Um, and Kelsey obviously
Yep.
was running around with like he was like the little little runt, just running around under us, just happy to be there, So obviously we knew Kelsey, we knew Keenan, and we knew their family, So um, at the time,
Shout
like I
out
said,
to the Barlows, by the way, man.
yes,
Great.
sir.
Keenan and Kelsey are my guys, man. I
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
love those dudes.
yeah. Even their dad, Big Barlow, he had a
Yep.
great, has done a lot of work within the basketball communities that he's been a part of, whether in Indianapolis, in America, or overseas. So definitely shout out to their family. But like I said, at the time, my dad was working at Purdue in the marketing department, and Kelsey was playing for Purdue, and that was at the point in Kelsey's career where, he was going through his growing pains. He was, finding himself in situations that weren't in his favor, So my dad made a call to the assistant coach at Purdue, whose name was Jack Owens. Jack Owens was the assistant coach at SIU that was coming to Kokomo and recruiting me to SIU throughout the whole process. So just like Coach Stevens, Coach Owens was coming to my high school, coming to my practices, pulling me out of class, talking to me, just going through that process. So fast forward 3 years later, Coach Owens is the assistant coach at Purdue. So my dad calls Coach Owens, just to kind of talk about Kelsey. What's going on with Kelsey? We heard he's going through some things. He's not playing. I think he got suspended for a few games. So he called Coach Owens to see what was going on. So in that conversation, they obviously my dad caught him up with where I was at as far as, finishing my second year of Valpo, graduating from Valpo, my name being in the draft, but also having another year of eligibility. And at the time, the 5th year transfer rule had only been taken advantage of like one or two times, and it had only been for like someone to go back closer to home for like a family member that was ill. So
Right.
it wasn't a a situation, an opportunity that players were taking advantage of. So in that conversation, my dad catching Coach Owens up with my situation, Coach Owens was like, well, Brandon can transfer right away and play anywhere immediately. And that was kind of news to us. So my dad like, oh really? Okay, like let me share this with Brandon and see what he thinks. Takes me back to those other two situations. Right when I found out that was the opportunity, I'm like, oh, I'm gone. Like
Yeah.
like I get to open up my recruitment and I can go anywhere in the country and play immediately after the 2 years that I had at Valpo. Like it's a no brainer. I had no second thoughts, no doubt. I didn't question it at all. I had to go through the process to make it official, and had to, send out some letters. I had the player to take advantage of that rule. You have to choose a graduate program that the university that you graduated from doesn't offer. So that's the loophole to be able to play immediately. So I had to send out a letter, I had to produce a letter myself and send it out to like, 10 or 15 different schools, just random schools, and, tell them that I'm opening up my recruitment for this 5th year of my career. Um, and I'm eligible to transfer immediately and play right away. So at the time, I had already heard like the word had got out, so I had a little bit of interest here and there. So once it was made official, it was between Purdue and Michigan State. You know, UConn kind of came in a little bit here and there. I remember they called and this is the year Kimba was leaving, so they called. I remember the coach like, yeah, we need someone to come and replace Kimba. So I'm like, that's
Hey, that's dope.
yeah, that's like looking back, I'm like, ooh, like that would have been something serious. But
Yep.
that's how it was supposed to play out. But yeah, so it was going back and forth. I'm like, I talked to Coach Painter one day, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to Purdue. I'm gonna go to Purdue. The next day, I would talk to Coach Izzo. I'd be like, all right, yeah, maybe it's Michigan State. So it was like, day after day. And then it came time to visit. I went on a visit to Michigan State. Me, my mom, my dad, my sister. They showed us the campus, took us to dinner. Um, and I felt comfortable. And at that point, I had a conversation with a couple of the assistant coaches, Coach Stevens, Coach Garland. I even had a conversation with Draymond. Just him kind of telling me what I was getting myself into, becoming a Spartan, what to expect, just, nothing's going to be given. You're a 5th year player, experienced player, you just graduated, but like, you're going to have to come in here and earn the role that you want, So they made that clear from the jump, whether it was Izzo or Draymond or the assistant coaches. So I knew that, I would have to earn, my role. I would have to earn, whatever I want with this situation. So I had no doubts. I had the same feeling in those initial open gyms as far as like damn, now this is another level. Like seeing
Hmm.
Brandon Dawson, seeing Keith Applin, seeing AP, seeing all these players and the athleticism and the skills and the speed. Like I'm like, I had those same thoughts that I had at my JUCO. Like okay, like these boys are on another level. Like I'm not sure how I fit in. I don't think I really fit in athletically, even though like that was probably just me putting that pressure on myself, but I definitely was like, this is a different level, and just the temperament of boys, and just boys fighting in the open gyms and like I'm like, okay, like, this is something different, but like I'm like, I want all parts of this, I'm all
Yeah.
in, like this is what I want, like I would have been preseason player of the year in the Horizon League. I would have been preseason first team all league. I would have had all the preseason accolades to be the best player in the league, which I was. But I'm like, my mindset was like, there's really not much more I can do in the Horizon League. So like, let me bet on myself and take advantage of this amazing opportunity to go and play at the highest level of college basketball for one of the best coaches ever, in one of the best conferences ever, and play a schedule against, the best teams in the world, and to be able to be a Spartan in the classroom as well, to work on my master's degree at Michigan State, to just continue to grow not only as an athlete and as a student, but as a man. Then I'm at a point to where like I'm stepping into manhood. So all around it was just a great opportunity, and one thing I always like to share as far as like the fifth year transfer. One thing I always like to share as far as like the fifth year transfer rule and just the timing of it. So at that same time, Russell Wilson decided to be a fifth year transfer and transfer into Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fifth year transfer on the basketball tip and decided to transfer to Michigan State. So myself and Russell Wilson, we were the first examples of a fifth year transfer player in basketball and football transferring to a high level university and being as successful as you could be, and that's before the portal, So really, myself and Russell Wilson, we really started the NCAA portal and where it's at today.
That's crazy to think about because you're right. I mean, like, it was always some type of hardship or, something like that if people wanted to use that fifth year, but nobody had used it to be like, I have it. Like, I'm going to take advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm going to level up with it. I'm going to go from
Yeah,
Horizon League to the Big Ten.
yeah.
Um,
And at that point, like Coach Izzo wasn't known for taking transfers, especially like a fifth year transfer who has 1 year to play, But considering where the team was coming from the previous season with having to release some players and having some openings, so it was really like a perfect opportunity for them to bring in someone who was experienced, who had produced at a high level, who had developed as a young man at that point, So it was kind of like a situation where they trusted me, even though they weren't familiar with me, they trusted me, So even for them to take that chance, for Coach Izzo to take that chance on me, and then to see how the NCAA has evolved since then, to where, after that he took some other transfers, and then like to see the college culture as it's evolved into where it is today with the portal. I know there's some pushback on different perspectives of the portal and how it's played out, but I'm proud to say that along with Russell in football, I'm proud to say that I really began that, and I was an example of a player who transferred to the highest level. It might have took a loophole, but I took advantage of it, and I really showed the country and showed other universities and opened up their minds to take in fifth year transfers at a more frequent level. So I'm very proud of that. And it's just a cool part to add to the story.
yeah, and to your point, if you think about it, like during that time, there was not a whole lot of one and done guys either. Like, there was definitely one and done guys, but it's not like today. So a lot of the blue bloods weren't taking one and done guys at that time either because it was more about development and they're having 2, 3, 4 year guys. And so if you look at it from that perspective, it's almost like the same thing. You're a one and done, but you're almost more of a liability than a incoming freshman because you're already developed. You've had levels of success, not in a bad way, but you probably have some type of ego or high uh, thought of yourself. Not you, but just like in general. That's what the coaches are probably thinking. So it's like, okay, I can get a one and done guy who's gonna let me mold him, or this fifth year one and done is gonna be potentially a guy that's like almost more set in his ways, so more difficult on a coach. And like I said, at that time, like neither of those were common at the blue blood high level at that time. 2010, 11, 12, 13, that era was like you're seeing a lot of 4 year guys. So
Yeah, yeah.
I understand like why that was such a rarity. But then when you have
Mhm.
two guys do it in the same year in two different sports and have high levels of success, then it's like people are going to notice that. People are going to watch that and say, okay, well, Brandon did it, or Russell did it, and ironically, he's both in the Big Ten, and so the Big Ten is it's a community in itself. It's a fraternity in itself. So somebody
Yeah,
saw it and they knew a kid that'd be a good candidate for it. It got the train rolling, and that's probably
yeah,
how that turned into the portal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely was a safe player that, like you said, with my experience, with my how I've produced up until that point, just with my development. Um, but I had to have an open mind going into that
Right.
situation. At that point, I had always been the go-to player on every team I'd been on. So at Michigan State was when I really learned how to play a role. Really understood like the meaning of different roles on the team. So I wasn't the player with the ball in my hands. I wasn't even the player that could really dribble much. I just had to do what I did. And that was to guard the best player on the other team and to knock down shots and to within the offense pick my spots to attack. So I had to change my role and change my approach. As far as just my mindset going into games. And just understanding like I can have a great impact on the game and not score a lot of points. So up until
Right.
that point, I like was a scorer. And you score a lot of points, you think you play well, but that's when I started to learn like no, you can impact the game in so many other ways. And there were so many situations where I made like, don't get me wrong, I had big years on the offensive, big games on the offensive side that year, but there were so many moments when I had game changing plays and game winning plays, getting a steal, or getting a stop,
Hmm.
or getting a rebound, or just accepting whatever role that they had for me. I started the whole year, except like one game, but you know, about within the last year, I was back on campus and I was meeting with Coach Izzo, and like that year, although I was a fifth year, it was my only year there. So I kind of was like how he approached me, like he was on my ass. Like he really
Yeah.
put pressure on me. He really held me accountable. Like he really truly brought the best out of me, but like it was kind of that thin line that I talked about from my freshman year. He was on the good side of that thin line to where like he was kind of on. He was really on me, like really pressing me, but like he had that level of respect towards me as well, to where like he would have like I could challenge him as well. I could come back at him. I could not agree with him, and like there'd be times like we would be in practice and like it'd be like not only with myself, but like it'd be like we're about to damn near fight, but like we'd be like in that moment, and then like he'd like do his Izzo fist pump and like fire the whole damn arena up. So like
Yeah.
it's just moments like that to where like he was on my ass, like he was on my top, like he held me so accountable, but I was prepared for it, and like within the last year I went back and we've had conversation, and he was like kind of in correlation to how the players are today, the young players who are coming up, and just how they aren't the most tough minded. They are kind of softer to say, like, but he within the last year when we were there and I was spending time with him, it was the first time he really like broke down and told me like, like, man, like, I'm proud of you. Like, you really handled that year very well. Like, I was challenging you in ways that you had never challenged, but I think he really understood how built for that moment I was now that he's seen how the players are today. So it like
Oh yeah.
really put into perspective, like, it could have went both ways for me, because like there were freshmen on that team who weren't built for that pressure, who weren't built for that accountability, who weren't built for that attention to detail, And me being a first year there, I was in a way a freshman as well, So like it was cool for him to really like show me that love and tell me like, like you were different. You were different. Like you were really ready for this level. Like, you stood up. You had an amazing year, offense, defense, my style of leadership, being immersed with the team, complimenting Draymond, because I was older than him, so that's a little bro at the same time, so like it was I was in a space like to where I was the most experienced player on that team in my own right and in general, but like I was able to really like you know find my way within what was already built,
hmm
and on Draymond, like that was the first team that I was on that really showed me what a true leader was, a person that not only held themselves accountable, but was able to be in a position to hold their teammates accountable and to hold the coaches accountable. And, you know, so that was the first time I really experienced a leader, so going back on my journey from my development from my first year of Valpo to my second year, and now getting this experience to really be next to a real leader, it like just allowed me to continue to grow and flourish into the leader that I am today, So that's one thing I always speak on is just like it's I don't think Draymond really believed that he would have the career that he's had since then, but it doesn't surprise me at all, because the leadership that he has in him and how he's rubbed off onto that team, onto Steph, onto Clay. Like I can speak firsthand. Steph and Clay and that organization, they're not the team, they're not the players. They wouldn't have had the careers that they've had if it wasn't for Draymond. Whether that's on the court or off the court, but most importantly, his presence off the court, and just the presence and the energy that he brings out of you and the dog that he brings out of you. So, you know, people say what they want, but like Draymond is the most important part of that organization, probably in that organization's history. So and I feel comfortable saying that because I've been amongst him, I've been on the team with him, and I was the 30 next to Draymond before Steph.
I like that. I like that. No, that's amazing, dude. It's hard to argue against that because man, he's such an influential person on the court, and obviously I don't know him off the court, so I can't speak on that. But I could definitely see how he could have an impact on a person, in their life, or whether it be investing or learning about business or whatever. He just seems like a he's almost seems like a dad out there. You know what I mean? Like he's like dudes that are older than him be like asking him for advice.
Yeah, and sometimes, as he's spoken on, it's a thin line, that he's continued to have to learn and understand
Right.
himself at different levels. So, like, I'm sure there's sometimes when it hasn't really went in his favor, as we all know, but it's like, he still has that respect,
hmm
It's definitely been great to see his journey and just to be a part of it, and still have a relationship with him and still be able to lean on him and him to be able to lean on me. And, it's been cool, and I don't take it for granted, and it's added to my development and my evolution, as a player, as a man, as a business owner, as a leader, so I soak it all in, and I, appreciate it.
Yeah. So you mentioned, a couple things is that thin line between like disrespect and hard coaching, and your experience at SIU, which is more on the disrespect end of the spectrum, and then you got Izzo, who's known as like one of the hard asses in the coaching world, and I'm sure he is a extremely hard coach that demands perfection, and he goes about it his way. But obviously, like it's about the connection you have with the player and kind of earning the right to be able to coach them hard, and also recruiting the right type of player that you can coach in that manner. So I think there's something to be said there. And then just going back to you know, kind of like being the first or like a trendsetter is like as you were talking, I started thinking about you kind of opened up the floodgates for Izzo to get into Indiana, man, because then he brought in Gary Harris, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Jaron Jackson Jr., um, Aaron Henry, who I did some pre-draft work with him when he was coming out, getting ready for the league. 3 indie guys right there. I'm probably missing a few. Um, and then what I wanted to ask about was the retreat or event. There's some type of training camp or something that you guys all come back for at Michigan State, and it's basically like all the Spartan pros come back, and looks like a hell of a weekend, really. And it looks like where I'm going with this is it looks like Draymond kind of is like the heart of that. Like I don't know if he plans it or if that's his event or whatever, but if you know what I'm referring to, kind of talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, just to speak on, kind of opening the floodgates to Indiana and Izzo recruiting, I actually hosted Gary on his official visit there. So we had a pretty good time. Um, had a great night, So, yeah,
Legendary
focus.
story, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But that was cool, just to because I really wasn't familiar with him. Obviously, he was younger, so I wasn't familiar with him at all. Leading up to that, I had heard that we were recruiting a guy from Indiana, from Indianapolis. So obviously me being an Indiana guy, they kind of put him with me when he came on his visit. So like I said, I had a great time, great visit. Next morning, we had practice like 8 a.m. the next morning, so that was one of them rough ones. Ooh, that was one of them rough practices, but I was like, shit, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for whatever. but So yeah, what you speak on is called the Grind Week. We call it the Spartan Dog Grind Week, and I believe it started in 2017 when Draymond and Travis, who also is a former Spartan, they brought us all out to. The first one was out in the Bay, so we all went out in the Bay. They put us up in the hotels. We had the strength training and the hoop training throughout the day. Had like the dinners in the evenings. The first one wasn't like Spartan based. There was like a few of us Spartans. Denzel Valentine, myself. I'm not even sure if there were any other Spartans that were there that were actually playing, but Jalen Brown was there, Ian Clark, Noah Vonleh. So the first one was more like a mixture of people from different places, and then there was like I believe there was like a year where we didn't have it, um, a year or two, and then like they kind of rebranding it into the Spartan Dog Grind Week, to where now the last 2 years it's been on campus in East Lansing. So just to go back and be able to stay on campus, to be right there on a university, where we all spent time at, to have all the coaches there, all the managers, most importantly, all the players that are still there currently, so they get that family feel of us coming back and, just coming back and showing love and taking time out of our schedules to come back. And, it kind of just shows how much the university means to us, so to get to know the younger guys, that's always a good moment to go back and get to know them and spend time with them, training, off the court, hanging out, so that's been cool to get to know them. Um, but yeah, it's definitely based around Draymond. the year before this past year that we had it, I wasn't able to go because I had just went overseas to Serbia. So this past grind week was my first one going to. It's only the second one that we've had on campus, but it was my first time getting to go. So it worked out that there was a home football game that weekend. Draymond was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we had the grind week, so it was like a
Oh,
perfect.
that's perfect, man.
Got to go to the game. We got to put in a lot of work together. And got to go to his ceremony as far as the Hall of Fame induction. Had some dinners, got to hang out after that. Had a few Lobo sponsored events, so those are cool. So yeah, so it's just a great time to come together as Spartans. We have the former older Spartan alumni come back. As far as Mateen Cleaves, Morris Peterson, Steve Smith. A lot of those guys come back and get to spend time with us and spend time with everyone. The coaches, the current players, the managers. So it's just like a collection of Spartans from decades ago to us a decade ago to like the current players, and then even bringing in, they use it as a recruiting weekend as well, so we have like all the top recruits come. So it's just like a combination of, you know, former Spartans, current Spartans, and potentially future Spartans coming together. So just to be able to put in work together, to be in the facilities, they've put a lot of money into the facilities over the years. So um, we have our own locker room there. I still have my own locker there with my name on it. That's an alumni locker room. So,
That's so
we all,
cool, man.
so it's cool just to go back and, even outside of that, just being a Spartan myself, just being a 1 year Spartan, and just being kind of aligned with Spartan Nation and being a Michigan State Spartan throughout the year, as far as like the big football games that we have that are nationally televised and watched, the big basketball games that are nationally televised and watched, and follows the news stories that come with being a Spartan, whether good or unfortunate, the recent news, just kind of, it's cool to like have that family feel and that connection and that unity being a Spartan. I never really experienced that because I've really always been somewhere new every year, or had a new coach every year to that point. So just to be a part of that, it's kind of like it adds to somebody like myself who has extended themselves in other ways off the court, to my community endeavors, my different business moves that I made, the connections that I've made. It's allowed me to continue to grow my brand, because it's like, not only am I putting in the work like as a Spartan, and the other Spartans who have been Spartans, and how the news flows, it's like it adds to always kind of being relevant.
Hmm.
So it's like kind of like throughout the years, I got a lot of chances to continue to, speak as a Spartan, to support Spartans, to just be proud of being a Spartan, and to leverage that into my favor and into my family's favor and into the community of Kokomo's favor and all the communities that we've been a part of since then's favor. So I've always looked at it as a big picture, and continue to grow my Spartan network to where now I'm a board member of the Arizona Spartan Alumni Group in Arizona, which is the one of the biggest Spartan bases in the country, in the world. So it not only took my career to another level athletically, it's taken my life to even greater levels, outside of the game. So, I kind of look at it from that perspective, and, it just adds to the gratitude, it adds to, the passion that I have as a Spartan, the passion that I have in general to make a difference, to help people, to bridge different gaps. So, I've leveraged it to my favor, and, it kind of goes to the phrase like, use the game, don't let it use you. I've used it to a T, and
Hmm.
I've never cheated the game. I've sacrificed myself at different moments in order to keep my soul for the game. So it doesn't come to surprise like everything that's coming my way these days, because I've put in the work. I've done it with a heart, with a big heart, and I've continued to learn, and continue to include people. So, I mean, it's been an amazing journey to this point, and it got even more special and amazing following that year, and even to these days, it's like I've positioned myself to, continue to reach greater and greater heights. So, man, I'm aware of the journey. I'm very, very self-aware. I'm aware of how each part has played out, and I'm aware of, the space has kind of catapulted me into, which really no one where we're from has this type of journey or this type of experience or this type of network or this type of access, so and nobody has put in the grassroots level work that I have put in Indiana, and nobody has that we know that we're around. So like I stand on that and I'm proud of it, because I've had to extend myself in different ways, and I've learned so much to where now it's like I have the highest visions of myself, and I can go in a lot of different ways, so
Mhm.
I'm proud of that, and I try to just be an example for specifically people from where we come from, who are the younger generations coming up, because that's all it's about is the kids and the coming generations, and guiding the players that have came up under me, from Kokomo, so I know the space I'm in, and I don't take it lightly, and I know I'm making our state proud and just trying to stay present and keep moving forward, bro. I know that's a lot, but
100%.
kind of just I'm a talker too.
Dude, no, it's all good. I love it. No, it's funny that you say that because, people might know, like, we've stayed in touch for maybe 2, 3 years. I've met you in person one time briefly, but it was, another pro basketball player that I'm assuming you were kind of like guiding, showing the way. Shout out Taylor Persons. But it's, going back to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. Taylor comes in. He's not even lifting. I was training at the time, but he comes in with you and he's like, "Yo, what's up, man? We just want to stop by, say what's up. I want to introduce you to my boy Brandon. Chop it up." So such a Taylor thing to do too, to come to the gym and not lift. But it is what it is. But no, so he introduced me to you, and I'm like, I was familiar, obviously. I'm like, damn, that's what's up. I peep what was going on. Like, you guys are both from Kokomo. Taylor's following the same trajectory. Just had an amazing college career, about to go pro. Still doing it at a high level out in Poland right now. But jumping back, I wanted to shout out Taylor in that interaction that we had because I didn't want
Oh,
that to go unnoticed.
yeah, bro. That's Taylor. That's little bro, man. He going back to the Kokomo days, like our parents, our my mom and his dad worked together at Chrysler for many years. So it kind of speaks to the
Yep,
cloth that we're cut from, kind of how we're built. Me and Taylor are truly built the same. We're cut from the same cloth. We've been through similar experience as far as our family dynamics, stuff that we've had to experience and now reflect on and understand at deeper levels, so we're really like kind of one in the same, so I remember when I was at SIU, he was like in middle school or elementary, 6th, 7th grade maybe, and him and his dad came to SIU to Carbondale to watch a game, so like Taylor's
that's
really
dope.
been following me from the jump, and I'm obviously he's older now and grown up and has a family of his own, but Taylor is one of the young guys, the only young guy that really showed that love and really appreciated, you know, my journey and the fact that I really tried to pour it into him. He really, and he's one that will speak on, like I didn't even really remember or know that he came to SIU, but like just being Taylor and having the heart that he has. Like we were hanging out one time and he was like, "Man, like I remember me and my dad, we came to SIU and watched your game. Like, man, I used to watch you and like I used to love, coming to your games and this and that, but it just speaks to to the heart that he has. You know, he's a prideful man, but like he never let pride get in the way of him.
Mm-hmm.
He extends that love. He shows respect where respect is due. So to see the journey that he's been on, I'm glad that he's in his pro career and traveling and experiencing these different countries, especially with his wife. Because I had that experience for the first 8, 9, 10 years of my career. My wife and I got to travel together. So, this little stuff like that I've been able to share my perspective and show my perspective to him, to where like I can tell he's taking note. He understands the meaning of having your lady with you. Having your son with you now, immersing yourself in these different cultures. He's starting to show the off the court stuff. So I'm like, okay, like he's not taking this hoop journey as just a hoop journey.
Mm-hmm.
He's that it's more than that. So man, I'm more proud of Taylor than he probably knows. I know he knows because I show love to him. I reach out to him. I catch up with him. I make sure he's doing good. I reach out to his dad and holler at his dad. But definitely want to show love to him, and because we have a lot in common. And we're doing what we love. And
Yep.
where we're from, like where it's rare to make it out and do what we've done. So to see someone approaching it as he is, I'm proud of you, bro. Proud of you.
Man, love him. Love him. Hell of a guy.
Yeah.
Like one of the most charismatic, just he's a character. Like I always tell Taylor he needs to have a reality show because that dude is fried. Like
For
pure
sure.
entertainment, man.
That's another thing, just kind of where we come from in Kokomo. Not too many people are familiar with it, so like might look at him and be like, "Where the hell? What the hell? Where this dude come from? What do you think? What do you got going on? Like, who do you think he is?" But like, we really like have been through it, and
Yep.
we've come through. Like we built through it and we built from it. So like, his personality, the personality that we've developed, it's like, we have a very diverse group of friends that we've come up with who have more than not are still there, but like it's all love. We get love from everyone, and that's we don't take it for granted, but that's because we do go home. We do go back to the hood and hang out. We do show that we're still, you know, just young mo boys who happen to make it out, happen to do what we love at a high level. So it's still that, people can still touch us, and they know that they can reach out to us, and we'll be there for them. So I mean, I'm very proud of Taylor, man, and we beat the odds. We're true
Mm-hmm.
testament of beating the odds, and continuing to grow and continuing to evolve, and just being family man and having the hearts that we have.
Absolutely, man. Shout out Taylor, the fucking legend. Want to go back to
Quick,
um,
we got a never ending 1-on-1 game going, and I'm beating them, just to put
oh
that out there.
shit. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. I'm gonna make sure I let him know that I know that.
yeah.
Going back to your Michigan State, just end of your career there. You end up highly successful. I think you're top three in pretty much every stat category that year, playing amongst future draft picks and other overseas pros. So you do your thing. I think you guys go in number one seed overall, make it deep in the tourney, Elite Eight or Sweet 16. It all comes to an end sometime. Ultimately, college ball ends, and then you're right back to what's that next step. So you're at another crossroad in the journey, and ultimately that led you to an overseas uh, successful, still ongoing professional career. I think you've played 10 plus 11 years now, or maybe even more, in probably just as many countries.
Mhm.
Obviously, we don't have to go in all the stops that you've been on, but man, you're having a hell of a career. You played for over a decade, getting paid for it. You've seen the world. Um, living the dream, like you said, you came from freaking Kokomo to Australia right now, where you're recording this. It's
Yeah.
almost 9 p.m. here, coming up on probably noon there for you. It's like we're in Australia, bro. Like, how did that happen? It's like what has your journey um, been like, man? Like, how cool has it been to live out this dream and play
Mhm.
high level basketball over all over the world and just do what you love for a living?
Sure, man. So following the Michigan State year, first off, I got into a little bit of trouble, So not to go into that story, but I was accused of something, and so I lost all my NBA workouts, So I only had like two NBA workouts. All the like the charges got dropped, because it was lies, But that was something that was the beginning of my professional career, and it
Mm,
happened to begin with, you know, getting arrested and getting in trouble. It was built on lies, so legally at all, I really didn't have to face anything or nothing happened. But just as far as having that on your name and on your brand at that point in your career, as you just came out of a very successful year at Michigan State, like that was national news, like Dick Vitale tweeted about it, specifically. So that was kind of how
mm,
my professional career started, So I lost all my NBA workouts. I had the only one I actually got to go to was for the Bucks, and then I had like a few teams that came in and watched me in Chicago. So when I finished at Michigan State, I was only in online classes, so I was already, had already been talking with Izzo and them about my plans. So, so I was really just hooping that year, just had a couple online classes, taking the lightest load. But so I had already talked to Izzo and them and told them, I had signed with an agency that was based in Chicago. So I'm like, when we lose in the Sweet 16, we ended up losing in the Sweet 16. So they already knew, like, when we lost, like, I was going straight to Chicago. I wasn't going to stay there for the rest of the school year because, there really was no point to,
mm,
uh, so I went to Chicago. I was there with my agent. Put me in a house, had the chef, had the trainers. Had that full experience. So I was very, very comfortable. And then like a few weeks before the workout started, that's when the incident happened. So like I said, lost the workouts, had a couple workouts. So I'm like, it's the only option for me is to really go overseas. I didn't really have any summer league. I was things weren't in my favor, so to say, at that point, So again, even it kind of speaks to just how I move and how I'm built, Following that incident, regardless of what happened or what didn't happen, I learned from it. I was able to take away from the situation. And the very next day, I didn't miss a beat. I was back in the gym with my trainers and didn't miss a day moving forward, So like I've had to experience a lot throughout my journey, but like I've always been able to persevere relatively easy, very easy, So and really like to leave stuff in the past, like because I was like, okay, this happened, let me just move forward. Okay, I'm not the trajectory might have changed, but like again, it just go back to like I've never really had expectations. I've never felt entitled to anything. So I've always just been like happy to be here. Still to this day. Grateful. So I'm like, okay, I went through this experience. You know, was even going through other experiences off the court. As far as family, as far as um, like man, like I've been through so much, bro. Like my hometown powers that be trying to put me in situations to run me out of the city. So I've been through so much, bro. But like I've always been able to like that's why I know my purpose and calling has always been greater, because first off I've always been able to persevere and move forward and stay in the moment and not really like dwell on anything that's happening or anything that I'm within. So I'm like, okay, I gotta go overseas. Let me just I've been over there to Europe a couple years ago, so I got a little experience of what's to come, but I've never lived over there, so I signed my first contract to play for the top team in Macedonia. Very good contract, good money, good leagues, good situation. At the time, I had just reconnected with then my ex girlfriend because me and Angeline we broke up for a whole year while I was at Michigan State. So no contact, no nothing. So we kind of reconnected, fell back into love right before I signed this contract, and then we were able to just start our journey overseas together. So like it kind of like I said, it kind of like my journey's been so aligned and so meaningful and so like in harmony, with a greater purpose. It's like, okay, it's time to go overseas. Wherever I go, I'm taking my girl with me. At the time, that was my girlfriend, so I'm like, that was always my mindset. Like, I'm not going anywhere unless I take my girlfriend with me, unless I take my fiance with me, unless I bring my wife with me. Like, that was just that was just what it was. So definitely proud for standing up and having that perspective at the time, because we went on the journey around the world and had a very, very fulfilled life. So I'm at a point where like, okay, it's time to go overseas. I go to Macedonia. At the time, my girlfriend, Angeline, she hadn't came yet. I was going to go over there and get established the first few weeks. So like 2 weeks in, after our training camp, we went away for like a week of training camp. We have like 2 days off following the training camp. After the first practice back, I'm walking out the gym to go home to relax for the day till the next practice. The coach pulls me to the side and tells me like, we're gonna release you. We're looking for more of a pure point guard. So we're gonna release you from your contract. We're gonna buy you out of your contract. You'll get this money, but you have to see what's next. Talk to your agent, So I got a dose of the business, which I'm grateful for. I got a dose of the business immediately, so that was able to change my perspective and my approach to the business of overseas basketball and professional basketball in general. So from that point forward, like I kind of I'm like, okay, like there's a part of this that I can't control no matter what I do. So like let me understand that and accept that and let me add that to my perspective as I make decisions moving forward. So from that point, like I've just been able to flow forward. You know, I went to Hungary after that. Angeline joined me there. So we spent 10 months in Hungary to start my career, which was the longest period I've ever been there. Won the cup championship, won the national Hungarian league championship, got finals MVP, and then was able to go home for my first summer, with some money, So,
Mm-hmm.
so had I'm grateful to get that first experience of the business, even though I got released. Like my mindset again, bro. Like I'm in such a flow state. Like my first mindset after that was like, okay, like I'm not gonna go to where my first mindset was because I'm not ready to share that yet. But I'm like, okay, like let me just keep it moving, So we find ourselves in Hungary, have a great year, win the championships, Finals MVP, go back home, and then able to move forward into my career, So my rookie year really set me up for my whole career, to where like I produced at a high level. I was like top 5 in the league in scoring. I won 2 championships my rookie year, Finals MVP. So that was like the foundation of my career, to where, I haven't had to like really negotiate no contracts. I never had to really like. I never felt the feeling of damn, I don't know what's next. I don't know where I'm going next. I might not have known what was next at the time, but I'm like, I'm not really worried about it. Like
Yeah.
something's gonna come, something's gonna be brought to me. So I'm grateful to not really have had that pressure on me. That combined, just my mindset combined with, when I was a rookie on the court, I was a rookie in business. So I started my own nonprofit. I started my own LLC. I started managing and hosting my own events. So even in those moments when I didn't know what was next, like I always was able to completely turn a switch and completely pivot into like, okay, I got to plan these events. I got to what funds or what families or what charities can I raise some money for to try to make a difference. So I've always been able to. I've always been solid in my career to know like I'm gonna get a job. I've been playing well. Even after that, I produced everywhere. I've won more championships. So definitely grateful for that, to have a solid foundation, and then even in those off seasons, just having so much going on to where I was able to put my mind and my focus on other things, and what my purpose and passion truly is, helping people and making a difference and bridging gaps and connecting people for different opportunities. So, grateful my career started with winning and started with producing at a high level, and just was able to open myself in other ways, just to keep that bigger perspective.
Yeah, man, that's perfect. And like you said, you've played everywhere. You've Macedonia, Hungary, uh, Germany, G League stops even. So over the course of the last decade or so, you probably have learned a lot about yourself, learned a lot about the game of basketball, um, and ultimately now you're doing that in your current area, which is in Australia. So um, within that time, you had another strike of adversity, another strike of tragedy, and kind of going with the whole theme of this. This will be your first season without your wife there. Can you talk about just, you know, first of all, condolences for your loss, and just have so much respect for how you've handled that, and just seeing you talk about it and seeing you just embrace that, like, mind blowing strength. Like, I can't even tell you how amazing that is, to hear you speak about you guys' relationship, and now with her not here anymore, just being here in spirit, and how that's impacted you. Man, that's so powerful. It's just mind blowing how you're navigating this. Um, so hats off to you. But like I said, this will be your first season without her, and you're figuring things out. Obviously, you've had her along this journey with you throughout your career, and now you're in Australia, about to start another season in the NBL1. And not only life has changed, but now part of your routine has changed. Talk about just where you're at now, mentally, emotionally, and how you plan to continue to move forward, and strive for the greatness that you continue to reach.
First off, I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate the condolences. Appreciate that perspective. It's always good to be confirmed that you know what I'm embracing from this is touching people's lives, and just to hear that, thank you for that. And I get so many people throughout the weeks that reach out and express just the strength that I've shown, and the courage to really embrace the situation and perceive it as something which it is. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than her. It's bigger than us. So um, like I said before, and I spoke on before, I'm very grateful that we've got to experience the journey that we have. Um, she was in her purpose, doing what she loves as a nurse, and she had a cleaning company. So she was doing what she loved and really growing and evolving as a woman. I was on a similar journey within myself, as far as growing as an athlete, growing as a business owner, similar to her. So we were on a journey of purpose together, which um, brought a lot of meaning, brought a lot of purpose. Um, we really immersed ourselves into that, so every day, every moment, every year, every season, like we really took steps and grew as individuals and as one, so just to speak on us being able to travel the world, be outside of America, kind of be in our own bubble for so many years, to be able to experience different cultures, meet different people, just learn so much about the different ways of life, and just meet so many people overseas and friends that we still have to this day. We just really, I'm just thankful that we approached the journey like we did. Like we're very curious people. We're very social. We love people. So I'm just grateful that we have traveled. We've met a lot of people. We've touched a lot of people. She's touched so many people throughout our travels, and throughout her journey, even her people that she was connected to here in America or there in America. So just to be on such a purpose and meaningful journey, doing what we love, doing what we're passionate about, um, and then just combining that with our efforts to serve others, just to be outside of ourselves and really project our heart that we have on others in different ways, whether it's there's so many people that like reach out to us, whether it's intentionally or not, like that reached out to us, just for some strength, just for some confirmation, just for our energy. There's been so many people throughout the years that have leaned on us for that, and we've always leaned right back into it, and never, um, it's never gotten old to us. Like we never took it for granted. Like every one of those engagements we leaned into with our heart, and show people that we cared for them and that we would listen to them and that we would be here for them, in a variety of different ways. So just doing what we love, serving other people, partnering with different organizations, running different fundraisers. So doing what we love, doing what we're passionate about, being of service, and just most importantly, being on the journey of self understanding that we were on earlier than we even realized, through our experience. We really have we've learned everything that we're meant to learn within life. We learned it through experience. And then we went back once our travels settled down. Then we went back and kind of like just confirmed everything, So we were on like a journey of we experienced it all. We immersed ourselves to a point that we learned all the lessons that we needed to learn, So then upon our reflection, it allowed us to really understand the space that we were in and really go even deeper within to ourselves, deeper within to our families, and really understand ourselves at the deepest level, So when you're on that type of journey, of emotional development, of spiritual understanding and development. When you're really on a organic, pure, genuine journey of such, you're able to embrace every single thing that comes and not embrace it with your ego. You're able to embrace it just as this is a part of what we're meant to experience in this realm when it comes to that divine spirit, that creator that we all speak on or speak towards or seek towards, or the source or God, or the universe, whatever you want to call it. When you've really truly been on a such a journey that's been immersed mostly within nature, that's really what the source comes down to, is nature. In nature we've always been in water and been hiking and been in forests and just really truly cherished laying in the grass, having picnics on top of mountains, going out on boats, being in the water. We really were one with nature, so that really is what solidified our connection to that divine spirit. So when you're on such a journey, when you're when an experience like this comes your way, you're prepared for it. You know, emotionally, you're prepared for it. Spiritually, you're prepared for it. So you never know what it's like when you experience it, but like I was fully prepared for this. She was in a space to where she was fully prepared for that. She had been purpose driven. She had touched lives. She had fulfilled her duty in this realm. So yeah, am I not going to be able to spend time physically with her? Are we not going to be able to like have fun anymore? You know, is she not going to be able to physically experience the visions that we had together, that we had developed and that we had daydreamed about together? Yeah, she's not going to be able to experience those physically, but you know, like we were prepared for this. You know, we were prepared for it. It's been a new journey since then, as far as understanding like the process of, you know, now being a widower, you know, the process of, you know, um, all the responsibility being on me, you know, because we had a partnership to where like we complemented each other in every way, you know, so like it's a process for me moving forward and, you know, finding myself in this space. You know, like I said, I was prepared for this, but, you know, there's going to be a time when I'm meant to receive another spirit similar to hers, you know. So just little stuff like that that we were fully prepared for, you know. So like I know it's been good for me to be able to stand on this, you know, because what I'm learning, like what we're taught growing up when it comes to physical death and what we're conditioned to believe, and really it comes down to the fear that's instilled in us. You know, there's a lot of fear that's really based in fear, you know, and like we haven't never really operated in fear, but like when you understand like damn, this is a perspective that really nobody has. So like now I'm like damn, like this was a part of our destiny, and now I'm able to share and guide people, men and women and couples and husbands and wives and younger generations. Now I'm able to share to them and guide them in the ultimate ways of life, you know, and of death, you know. So I've embraced it all. She wouldn't expect anything else. I got complete comfort moving forward, however I feel to move forward. So, like, I'm in an amazing space. I'm able to experience her spiritually, even kind of physically in a way every day. So, I mean, it's kind of special to be in this space, and you know, I'm just leaning into it, and you know, we've always been the life that we've lived has always allowed us to stay present and stay in the now, which ultimately that's what it comes down to for all of us. But this has even taken me to another level of presence and of vividness and of poise and of discipline, you know. So I mean, this is truly a part of what I was meant to experience. She was meant to experience, and the people around us that were meant to experience as well. You know, so I mean, I have a different level of understanding, which I'm proud of, which I stand on, which I don't expect people to understand, which I've had to protect myself from other people's perceptions of this. You know, to where now I'm able to like accept death, perceptions of death that's based on fear, you know. So like it's just all new to me. It's gave me the ultimate confirmations. I've learned more through it, you know, and ultimately, you know, I've became more poised and more still and more at ease, and you know, so I'm just continuing to pour in myself and you know just continue on the journey that we've built together, and you know that I'm going to take to the next levels.
Man, amazing, amazing perspective, bro. It's like I said, it's crazy because, like you said, yeah, it's not a common outlook. If you lose a spouse or a loved one to physical death, right? And I like the way you put that, physical death, because I think there's still a lot of other ways to experience someone emotionally and spiritually, and just having dealt with death of friends, loved ones, myself,
Mm,
my wife's dad. We've done some work together where we've actually went and seen I don't know what the professional word is, but basically like a shrink, I guess, if you will, or a medium. A medium, that's the word. I think that's more professional and respectful. But see, just and learned the different ways to connect with outside spirits and
Mm-hmm.
learn the different ways to welcome them and like like we went for my wife, right? She lost her dad when we first started dating around like 19, 20, um, back in college. And it's a tough thing, right? So you're in college, you gotta kind of figure out life, and then you got this to deal with. So anyway, we started like actively working on just different ways to go about the process. So we go and see a medium, and I'm there for support, right? Like I'm just there for her. It's about her. It's about her connecting with her dad, and we did. And I don't know if listeners like believe in that type of thing or whatever, but if you have lost someone and or know somebody that has, I would highly suggest doing this because it was insane, like amazing experience. So we
Yeah,
go there.
what I've kind of learned is when you have a spiritual connection and spiritual bond with someone, it's not based on religion at all. It could be religion could be a guide towards that, but a spiritual connection really isn't based on that. It's so
Hmm.
much more than that. So the spiritual connections that I've had with people, such as you don't even have to necessarily know someone to have a spiritual connection with them. I
Right.
had a connection with Kobe, just the impact that Kobe had on my life growing up, and how he guided me. I had a spiritual connection with Adrian Payne. So those were like steps towards this experience to where like I've had a spiritual connection with my spouse, with someone that I spent years with, who I've experienced everything with. So my encouragement to people would be to those relationships that matter the most, you got to spend a lot of time and intentional time, and really immerse yourself into them, and try to develop a spiritual connection. And when you develop that, it extends way beyond this realm, and it's,
Hmm.
there's so much I could speak on, but you're gonna have to read about that in my book one day. But yeah, man, it's just you gotta cherish those relationships, spend time, genuine, pure time together, and just figure out what's best for you and your relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a wife. So it's having a spiritual connection. Like I said, I believe a lot of people feel like that's based on ideologies from around the world, but those are mediums. But it's so much more than that, So when you have that, you're able to experience a lot different a lot of different ways you're allowed to experience them individuals who aren't necessarily here no more. But it comes to
Hmm.
that spiritual connection.
Yeah, no, it was crazy, man. It was a great experience. Helped her, helped me, like even to this day, like identifying different just signs, you know what I mean, and feelings and energy, and that's what it was really about. And I think like people misconstrue. I mean, there's probably TV shows that don't fully show what really goes on. But man, it was just really cool because I ended up being there for support, ended up getting help. Like she's like, there's more energy here for more than just Catherine. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking around like, hold on, whoa, I'm the only other person in this room. Who's
Yeah,
trying to talk to me? And so, no, it was like, it wasn't like the kind of the wizardry that people think. It's like the energy, the vibes, the connection, like just cool, man. Like, and you learn to feel it, and you learn to
yeah,
um, like you mentioned, like earlier in the podcast, you was like, my wife she's hearing me right now, or something like you felt something, you know what I mean? And like that, dude, I'm telling you, once you experience that, like I feel it every week with different people, because I know what signs are there and I know what feelings come into me. And it's like, oh, okay. And sometimes it's other people
Mhm.
that do something, like my kids will do something that I'm like, that's my grandma. You know what I mean? Like she was telling me that. Mason, my son, wasn't telling me that. It
Yeah,
was it was my grandmother speaking through him. So
yeah. No, for
just
sure. I
cool,
mean,
man.
you're right, man. It's you have to have a open mindedness. A lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
minded, because a lot of history and spiritual history, we just weren't taught. Our parents weren't taught.
Mm-hmm.
Our grandparents weren't taught. So when you really gain that understanding for yourself and have an open mindedness to yourself, you're able to perceive life, death, other people, engagements with other people, their projections, what they were meant to bring to you, how they align with you, and just the synchronicities that come with that type of Journey. I'm protective. I'm an open book, and I like to share. And I know this is meant for me to share, but at the same time, I'm protective of myself as well, to where there's some things that aren't meant to necessarily share right now, but it's special, bro. It's special, and you just gotta. It all come down to love and your heart, and just in your breath, being present. That's what it all comes down to. And
100%, man.
nature.
Really, really amazing story. Like just amazing story, amazing perspective. Once again, um, so
Appreciate
much respect for how you've handled it, embraced it, how you're moving forward. I know life will never be the same, but it's the way that you're um, leading by example to other people that may be going through similar things. Like I can't even tell you how impressive and how much respect I have for this. So appreciate you talking about it, on a freaking basketball podcast with me too.
No, I love. I mean, I understand. I realized early that I've been sharing for a long time and didn't really understand the impact and the development that comes from sharing. So, I'm someone who has been sharing for a long time. I've been sharing my story for a long time. I've been early on. I was sharing some. Now I share my perspective, but early on I would share some opinions. But I don't really get into the opinions. But now my perspective is so sturdy that I'm able to share that. And then I really took a level of understanding the importance of sharing through my mother, who is in her recovery journey. So she's a former addict, and going to meetings with her and understanding that sharing is the base of NA and AA and those recovery groups. So then I'm like, oh, like, so this is
Absolutely.
how you really like gain your power, is by sharing your story. So now I'm like, I'm just ready to give it all and keep flowing, bro. So I understand the importance of sharing, and I would encourage anybody, like, it might, for me, it's been easy for me to share because early on I had my parents who listened to me, who let me express myself, who let me cry during basketball games, who let me sit at the table frustrated when I couldn't figure out my homework or I didn't want to eat this food. And then I go on to have coaches who I'm just naturally open to. I'm open to share my family's life with Coach Homer and Coach Izzo, even to this day. So like I've always kind of, and don't get me wrong, like I've opened up and shared, and it's been taken advantage of, and it hasn't been appreciated, and it hasn't been respected, and it has been perceived and judged and critiqued, So it's both sides that come with it, but I would encourage people to always lean on sharing more, and then understanding how to tone it back, So
Hmm.
uh, this is just the beginning of me sharing, and my vision is to share at the highest of levels, So like I said before, I kind of commented on before we began. You sent me the topics that we would be talking about, and I've had a couple instances before where the host sent me kind of what we will be talking about, and my perspective on that is like, I put in my foundation of my life is putting in day by day. My foundation is putting in the work for myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to where I have increased levels of poise, increased levels of composure. I'm on a learning journey. Like every day, I'm learning and intaking information to where like I'm becoming more and more informed. And if I'm not, I'm very comfortable with asking questions and telling that I don't know what's going on. Fill me in with that. So for me, like my perspective, I'm like, no, I don't want to look at what he's going to talk about. Because this is a step for me in my growth, in my evolution to be on the spot, to speak from the heart, to speak off the top, because I know one day I'm gonna be speaking at higher levels off the top and have to answer questions. So like this is another step towards my growth. So you appreciate me, like I appreciate you bringing me on and allowing me to share because this is a big step, and now I'm continuing to open up more and more. So this is great. This is a great conversation.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it, and not even to you know bring it back to basketball, but I'm so excited to see how this impacts your game, and I know that's not the most important thing right now that you have going on, but like you mentioned, the levels of poise that you have, the level of perspective you have now, the higher connection to your spiritual side, like um, I can't wait to see just how, and I already have seen some of it because, with the TBT, I think you go out there very, very shortly after your wife passes and you go out there and you win the 3-point contest for the TBT. And it's like,
On her
damn,
birthday.
like that on her
On
birthday, like
her birthday.
she's guiding those shots into the basket. You know what I mean?
So,
Like it's like, I mean, you can shoot, bro. Don't get me wrong, but that
to be
is
honest,
amazing stuff,
we
bro.
got shots, they weren't even good shots. Like they didn't even come off right. Like they all felt like I was gonna miss, but like I'm like, damn, they just keep going in. Like so, yeah,
It,
she's got it, sure.
it's truly man, bro. I love it. I love it. Like hearing you talk about it and hearing how I think you are making it look and sound way easier than it is. So I want to put that out there that the level of poise and the level of just composure and self awareness that you have. I think a lot of people may not have that, and maybe that comes from your previous experiences. But the way that you carry yourself throughout this process is just, man. It's like the the holy grail of like, watch Brandon. You know what I mean? Watch Brandon. He'll get you through a tough situation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro. That means a lot, But you're right, bro. You're right. Through my experiences, through the journey we've lived, the journey I've lived, the the depths and the heights that I've went within myself. She's went within herself. We went within each other. And now understanding our families, our lineage more and more. Um, it's I know that I'm here for a very very big reason that it's not even meant to be understood. I don't even try to understand it. I just try to stay present and try to continue learning and continuing to be here for people as I can. But I'm very aware of the journey I've lived and um, I stand on it. I'm proud of it. And now I'm just continuing to learn how to articulate it in the right ways and feel and continue to have people comfortable, because I've kind of been that guy throughout the years that, my light's been shining for a long time before I even really truly understand it, and not everybody's built for that. So
Yep.
I've I've had that. That's been a big part of my journey. So like once you get confirmed at such high levels, it's like now you just lean into it. So it's like I don't even care how you take it. It's like I'm gonna just stand on who I am. If you take it the wrong way, you should try to maybe dive into that and understand where that comes from, and maybe that'll help you. So it's like I understand that even I just got to keep shining, bro. That's kind of what it comes
Yeah.
down.
No, I was gonna
But
say, man, keep.
I've always been humble. I've always been a people's person, and I've always like been there for people, and like never been arrogant or none of that. It's just like when it's in you, you just gotta flow with it. And I didn't really always grasp what it was, but I've always known, and I've always like kind of been able to persevere even through those moments. But now it's like I just gotta shine as bright as I can and continue to learn and be able to articulate it and share it at different levels in different ways so everybody understands it.
Yep. Keep making people uncomfortable, man, because that's how you create change. And I think the biggest learning points for me in my life is when somebody has made me feel uncomfortable to where I have to ask myself, like, all right, let me see it their way. And then you take the bias out, you take emotion out, you just listen to somebody else's perspective, and you can approach it and say, okay, yeah, that is a good idea or a bad idea, whatever, objectively. So yeah, keep doing your thing, man. Keep making people uncomfortable, and if well, maybe not uncomfortable if they are,
Yeah, I feel like it's past.
like yeah,
I'm so far removed from that. It's like
yeah,
now it's to the point where it's like you just gotta respect it,
you
and
got to.
you might have just got left where you was at. So like that's just kind of what it is. But yeah, it's cool, man. I'm just happy and grateful, and just trying to stay within bliss.
Yep. So before I let you get out of here, I got two more things for you. Want to talk about just this upcoming season. I know it's kind of what led to this convo. It'll be your first time in Australia, first time out there along this new journey. What are you looking forward to the most along this process? Any expectations? NBL1 is a phenomenal league. I'm excited to tap in because I got some guys over there too. So I can't wait to watch you out there, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. So um, there's a long story about how I arrived here, but I'll share that another day. But just to be here and have the opportunity to continue my career, this will be my 11th season. So following the countries I've been to, the leagues I played in, just the whole experience that I've had. In the last 2 or 3 years, because the last 2 or 3 years I haven't really played a lot of basketball. So in 2019 we were in Morocco, and I only played like 15 games in 7 months, and those were spread out into different series. So
Mm-hmm.
didn't play a lot of games there. And then following that year, went to Argentina. I was there for 2 weeks, and the pandemic hit, and I got stuck there for 3 months. And then got back from Argentina like end of June, early July, and so that next season, which was like the pandemic season, I just completely fell back. I just like wasn't trying to play, didn't want to play. Had some opportunities, but I'm like I've always just moved kind of how I felt I wanted to move. So it just wasn't time to play right then. So yeah, so I got there in Argentina for 2 weeks, played 2 games, got stuck for 3 months, got back from there, and then like following that pandemic season, like March following that season, I tore my hamstring. So the beginning of 2021, I tore my hamstring, and then 2 weeks later, I get an offer from Serbia. So I'm like, okay, I got a torn hamstring. Like, let me sign this contract. I'm not gonna tell the agent. I'm not gonna tell the team. I got like 3 or 4 months to work with, so like, let me just pour into my body and just get as healthy as I can, you know. And I got as healthy as I could. I couldn't really get on the court, but like, I made it through the training camp. And then after the training camp, I had a setback in my hamstring, which was some scar tissue. Which after a week, it helped it, you know, it felt better. And then I had a strain in my other hamstring, so like my body just wasn't quite ready. So I had to come back for last season and really just been rehabbing since, you know, November 2021. So
Hmm.
like I've been putting in, but like even through those experiences, like my main focus and my work ethic has continued to grow. So like I've been putting in my best work to this day, to this week. Like I've been putting in my best work. So I've gotten even stronger from that injury. I've gotten even more explosive from that injury. My game has gotten better in this time period, you know, to where like I haven't even played as a professional in my prime yet. A
That's
glimpse
crazy.
glimpse of it was the TBT and the pro-ams that I played in this past summer, which I played at a high level. But like I really haven't played in my career in my prime yet. So I'm more excited than ever. Like I'm in practices and I'm like doing stuff and I'm like it's damn near like kind of out of body to where like I'm watching my damn self. You know, I'm like, you know, like damn, I got stronger. Like I move faster. Like I'm more composed. Like my IQ is higher. Like I'm just faster and quicker and more shifty. You know, and so like I'm about to go crazy. Like and just really like begin the second half of my career. So I mean, I'm excited. You know, my love is greater than ever for the game. So man, I'm in a great space.
Love it, man. I love to hear it. I can't wait to see how the season goes and how your journey continues to go.
Yeah,
Because thus far it's been amazing so far, and I'm sure it's going to continue to have the waves that it has, and you're going to keep riding those waves, man. So,
yeah,
last thing
appreciate
I want to do is put you on the hot seat, which is just 7 to 10 random questions, rapid fire. You can just do whatever comes to mind first for your
it. Yeah,
answers.
I'm ready.
All
Let's get
right.
it.
So, who is the best teammate you've ever had?
Best teammate I've ever had. I mean, I think it has to be Draymond as far as what he's went on to do. You know, he's first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, he's All Star, Defensive Player of the Year, 4-time champion, gold medalist. You know, so probably Draymond. Yeah, I'll go with him.
That's a solid answer. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so you got to pick one player from each era, your favorite, not the best, but your favorite from the 90s to 2000, 2000 to 2010, and then 2010 until today's game. Favorite
So
player.
So I was born in '89, so I actually got to watch Jordan. You know, I got to watch his seasons. I got to watch him win championships, and I was like aware. You know, I remember I would be in front of the TV, keeping score like on a notepad, watching Jordan play. So Jordan was my first ever favorite player, and then so that would be like the '90s, 2000s, definitely Kobe. Like my all-time favorite is Kobe. But even before that, you know, like I was like T Mac fan,
Hmm.
Jason fan, Iverson fan, and then you know obviously Kobe. That's my all-time favorite player. Um, and then I would say the 2010s. Um, I would probably say, I mean Kobe was still in there for a while, so Kobe kind of
Yeah,
takes
that's
about half.
true. That's true.
Kobe still takes up about half of that. So Kobe, and then kind of transitioned into. Um, I really like before he got hurt. I really liked Darren Williams.
Oh, dude,
I
yeah,
really like Darren,
I loved him.
him and Brandon Roy, and then as of late, Westbrook, Kyrie. So right now, probably like Kyrie. That's like kind of who I've kind of been getting Kyrie comments as of late. So like I like got the the footwork with the ball placement, with the body movement. Like I got it all mastered now. So I like to see that from Kyrie because it's like that's how kind of how I play at this point. In my own way. I'm probably a little bit more efficient with it. Because I grew up playing in narrow trailer hallways. So
Right.
that got me playing like downhill. I'm always like downhill, but like I've kind of really developed the last 3 or 4 years. So I like Kyrie, even Luca. I like watching Luca. Um, so yeah, and Steph, of course. I like watching
For
Steph. I
sure.
feel like he just entered that top 5 of all time category. So as of late, Westbrook, Kyrie, Steph. And I was made a believer of LeBron at the beginning. I wasn't like I loved this. I love LeBron, especially what he's meant off the court. I kind of was ahead of the curve as far as extending myself off the court and understanding myself as far as a brand. Understanding my name, my image, and my likeness. So LeBron was a big inspiration to me to lean into that for myself to my own degree at my own level. So I appreciate LeBron more so for that. But I really wasn't really bought in as early as most people. I kind of had to become a believer to where now like I have thoughts to where like you really can't go against somebody saying that he's the GOAT, you know.
Yep.
But I'm always gonna be like Jordan, Kobe, Bron. That's always gonna be my top 3.
Yeah,
But
that's how
Kobe,
I am. I'll never
yeah,
I'll never argue that he's not. You know what I mean? It's like I just if like some days I think he is, some days I'm like Jordan, some days I'm Kobe. I don't care. If it's one of those three, I'm living with it.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
All right. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie, Menace to Society.
Fire. Great movie.
Yeah,
Um,
I think because like the moments, like the phase I was in my development at that time, it was right when I had just moved from the county into the city.
yeah.
Like I was like my friend group changed, like what I was exposed to changed. I was in different circles, experiencing different things, and like I remember I was watching that movie for the first time. At that point, the movie was like probably 15, 20 years old, but like I remember I was so locked in and like captivated by that movie to where like I just found myself in a different way through my development. So I'm like, yeah, this, you know, I love the hood. I love the
Yeah.
streets. I love the trap. I love that whole lifestyle. It's a lot that comes with it, but like that movie like was very very like influential to me. And fortunately I've been able to be protected and be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So I'm grateful that I'm free. Because a lot of my friends are in prison, have been in prison, have been in and out of prison. So are dead. So I'm just grateful. But that movie was at a pivotal point for me.
That's a classic. Who's your favorite rapper of all time?
Boosie for sure.
Ooh, Boost. That's kind of like
That's that
not
coach.
random,
That's that
but I
coach boy.
wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
Small town Indiana. That's that small Indiana hood in me. Like
Yep.
Boosie, Gucci. Man, that's who kind of like we grew up on in that space. Boosie and Gucci.
Yeah. I love both of those guys. What's the best piece of advice that a coach has actually anybody it can be anybody. What's the best piece of advice somebody's ever given you?
Best piece of advice. It's a good question. Really, not too many times I've like actually been sat down, even like through my childhood with my parents. Like I haven't, not too often I've been sat down and like shared advice. It's
Yeah.
just been like, a lot of like learning through experience, learning through um, kind of what not to do, or how not to act, and just observing and just kind of gaining that understanding myself. But one piece of advice, probably like as of late, the most recent years, just um, be yourself, um, be comfortable expressing yourself. Um, don't judge others. Don't be critical of others. So that'll probably be the main advice that I base my life on. Just continuing to understanding that learning in life is like it's a never ending, everyday commitment, everyday journey. So just having the open mindedness not to ever, I've never boxed myself in any box. So having that open mindedness and being able to be willing to learn and be challenged, and I understood a point to where I really didn't have any true beliefs or opinions. So once I realized that, I like had to go a little deeper just to really understand like the morals I were built on, the beliefs I was built on, and just kind of how I perceive things. So just be comfortable being yourself. Don't judge others. Be understanding, have an open mind. Know that everybody's life and upbringing has been different. So even the most hateful things, the most things that sound the craziest, the behavior that's the most detrimental and that could take lives. I have a level of empathy where I understand it. And I still listen to them, and I still see them as people, and I still see that you can redeem yourself from anything. So I mean, I'm probably like full of empathy, full of love, and just full of trying to be myself and continuing to learn.
Love it, man. All right, this is a funny one. Describe the first day of school fit your senior year of high school. What's the fit looking like?
The fit, man. So the night before, you had already went Christmas shopping, so you got your first day fit ready. So you put the jeans, you put the t-shirt on top of the jeans, you put the shoes on the bottom. You like, oh, morning, oh, I'm gonna kill him in the morning. Shout out to Mike Epps, man. I had to take it to him. But,
Oh shit.
but yeah, just back. I mean, high school. I still see pictures of like, I'm from the tall T era. You probably from the tall T era too.
Yep.
So the tall T under the tall T. So the tall T under the tall T was bigger than the tall T on the top. So and then the jeans, it might be a different color too. It might have the tan 5X with the white 6X under. With the
Hell
with the
yeah.
with the with the Tims.
With the
With the
fucking Jabot jeans.
with the bows, with the Evisos, with the man, with the tying the jeans up on the bottom with
Mm-hmm.
with the polo, with the tall tee under the polo coming out the bottom. That was them was the days, man. Them was the
That's that's nasty work. That's
days.
nasty work. I like
For
it though,
real.
man. Yeah, I've regretted some outfit choices that have recirculated, man. But this is that was what was cool back then, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I remember I had a real quick. I had a, and you probably seen it because like it was just one of the items that we wore. The big black tall tee with, I had like the big Malcolm X face on it. It was like face full of Malcolm X, and I must have like found it in like one of our storages, and I put it on like within the past 5 years. I put it on, and I'm like how the hell was I
Huge,
comfortable? How was I comfortable wearing this? Like
huge, bro.
that shit was
You
crazy.
you know what I do miss though that I think could still have a chance today is the racing jackets.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
The NASCAR jackets were fresh as fuck. I had a damn
Never had the race car joint. I used to have a Carhartt.
the car. Yeah, that's definitely some Kokomo shit.
Yeah, for sure. The black car, black Carhartt.
All right,
Yeah.
last three here. Um, I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna put it out there anyway. Who's the toughest player you ever had to guard?
Jeff Teague.
I was going Jeff Teague or Eric Gordon for sure because them in
So
high
we grew
school
up.
is
We were all in the same class, and just growing up, we used to play against each other. You know, throughout the AAU circuit, and you know that was back when he played for No Excuses. And just he was just so shifty and so quick, and um, you know Jeff, like these days, you know one thing, one thing these days, you know that I like and I relate to. You know, a lot of these kids these days, they're actual fans of each other. You know, like
mm-hmm.
they follow each other and they show each other love and they watch each other games and they give each other the comments and the likes and the reposts and you know and back in our days, you know, it wasn't really like that. You know, it was like kind of everybody, you know, kind of in their own lane, you know, pride on their shoulder, you know,
Yep.
like, see you on the court. But, you know, I was the player, like, I was a fan of those players. Like, I was probably one of the biggest fans of Jeff Teague at that time. You know, I remember like we would have our tournaments and the schedule would come out. I would go through the tournaments. My dad and myself, we would go through the schedule of the tournaments. We would highlight our games, and we would highlight Jeff games. Like I had to go watch his games, you know, because it was he was kind of like ahead of his times as far as like the skill and the shiftiness and the speed and the quickness and just the athleticism and you know, so he was just so fun to watch, you know, and just like um, his temperament, you know, like I used to be fond of his temperament and you know, it kind of like added to my development, you know, and the temperament that I have to this day, you know. So I don't mind showing love, you know. I don't mind, you know, showing that appreciation, you know, because um, I'm comfortable with myself, you know.
Yep.
But Jeff, you know, he had a. We were in the same class, we were competitors, but you know, he had an influence on me, you know, and even to this day, you know. So just to see how he's evolved his career and where it's went, how he's represented Indiana, bringing back the factory, pouring into the youth, you know, and just seeing, you know, the fact that you know he came off a championship, and I feel like we kind of have that in common as well, to where like, you know, we're proven, you know, so like you can move different when you're proven, you know, like
Right.
got your own motion. You can move at your own pace to where like when I've been in moments when I haven't had an opportunity, like I said, my motion pivoted this way, and I've always been like I never had to question it, and I've always been able to like stand on like okay, this is just a time period. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing, you know. And so just to see him like coming off a championship, obviously he's had a great career. And now I'm sure he's had other opportunities to play in the league or even go overseas and get a bag, you know. But he's just so sturdy in who he is as a man and comfortable. It's like that's what I respect more than anything, you know, just the pace that he's on, you know, and that along with just him pouring into the youth and you know being there and you know a lot of us, you know, it's different putting in money than putting in time and being visible and being able to be touched, you know. I've taken pride in being visible and being able to be there in the hood, in the city, in the classrooms, being able to be as accessible, you know. So for him to be there, and you know the kids probably loving that and gravitating
Mm-hmm.
to him, you know, much respect towards him and his family. You know, I'm definitely happy to see where his career has went, and you know, for what it's worth, proud of him. You know, for how he's represented his family in Indiana, and you know, just the impact that he's had on me and my game.
And
And
speak.
I even guarded him this past summer, and he hit me with the same move that he's been hitting all the whole so I'm like damn, like you know, I'm really like I've turned into a great defender, you know, but even guarding him still is still that sense in you, like like again, like I'm the one like I'm a aggressive defender, but even when I guarded him this summer, I'm like damn, he got that same effect
Yeah.
on. still like damn, like shit, just what's up? What's about to happen? What's about to happen?
Yeah,
Instead of like what everyone else is like, I'm getting up in you, like. So yeah, it's it's cool to be in the same class and to have both went on and had our own different types of careers and hopefully one day they come back full circle and we're able to do some good work in the state of Indiana.
for sure, man. I was gonna say shout out to Jeff too because he used to hoop in tall tees. Speaking of tall tees, that man
Yeah,
will
he's
hoop
had a
in the six
big.
X, bro.
Yeah,
Insane.
I was the
He's
style.
he's so fast, bro. You can't even see no part of his arm because his shirts are so big. You don't know where the fuck the ball is going.
It was just all t-shirt, and they were always all black, white. So it was just trill watching.
Crazy,
They
bro.
uh,
Um, what is a song or an artist that you're embarrassed to admit that you really enjoy?
mm, that's a good question. First off, I'm not embarrassed to admit anything. Let me see. Um, I mean, when you're on such a journey, you kind of evolve and grow through music as well. To where like I don't really listen to the same music I've always listened to. I
hmm
rarely leave like I know like all the hot songs, but like I don't really listen to much rap. It kind of evolved into like listening to like leaning onto my wife and what she listened to as far as like the Ari Lennox and Janae Aiko and Summer Walker, that type of vibe.
hmm
That's been a great part of our journey, and then evolving from that. And now, like, I listen to, um, you know, Afro beats, smooth Afro beats or some smooth jazz or, just the sounds of nature, So it kind of like I've been on an evolution through music as well. Um, but like when it's time to go to practice or play a game, like, I go back into, my hip hop rap bag, but
For sure.
uh, I've evolved through that as well to where like now I understand the impact that that music has on us, and kind of keeping us in certain mindsets that
hmm
are meant to evolve through, So a lot of people, are caught up in certain spaces of their life and certain situations and relationships in their life because they're getting it confirmed through the music, So like I had a point to where the music was confirming what I was going through as well, but like I healed and grew through all that, So like naturally, I just don't want to listen to that anymore because not that I'm not emotionally in a place to listen to that and be cool with it, you know. I just don't want to think about those type of scenarios and patterns and mindsets, So, I mean, I'm living a pretty intentional, pretty immersed life to where like organically I've just continued to evolve, and I think right now there's like some Afro beats playing, So it's just evolution, man. That's what it's all about.
I love it, man. All right, last question. Um this is interesting that I had this on here. And mind you, we didn't talk about what we were going to talk about before. You didn't
Yeah,
even look at the outline, and
yeah.
it's kind of fitting. But I know your answer will be interesting. So, what is your worst fear?
My worst fear. That's a great question. Um, for me, and how my life has played out from an early age. Once I became an adult and had some experience and had a chance to reflect back, I realized, and I mean, it's my journey, and I'm comfortable to stand on it, and it's gonna be taken and perceived however you want. But I had to look back, and you can kind of maybe now that you have some context to it, you can maybe assess, you can maybe confirm it. Like I look back, and I'm like, once I realized the impact that doubt and fear has on people, that's when I reflected back on my own journey and I realized like damn, I never had any doubts. I never had any fear. Like that just wasn't how I was raised. Whether it was naively raised through my parents and unknowingly raised, it wasn't like they intentionally raised me to not have any doubt or not doubt myself or not have any fears. It was just like kind of how my life played out. I was like, damn, like I had a point to where I had to understand other people at a different level. So within that process of understanding other people at deeper levels and the relationship of myself with them, that's when I realized like how doubt and fear really affects people. So it confirmed to me like okay, like I have a great foundation because I've never really experienced doubt. I never really experienced fear. I never really questioned any decision. I've never really, questioned myself, so I haven't really experienced that. I can't really speak on it from a level that probably most people can, but at the same time, it gave me more compassion for other people. It gave me more empathy for other people to where then I was able to understand, even outside of that, just thoughts and feelings and that combining with fear and doubt, I was just able to understand people at the deepest level to where sometimes when I was misunderstood, now I gain clarity for those misunderstandings because I understand people are going through so much internally, whether it's managing their thoughts and managing their feelings, managing doubt and fear. I've always been a visionary. I've always, you know, I had a good foundation because my dad got his business degree and he's been able to guide me to an extent along my journey. But when it came to planning events and putting together the logistics and making connections with people and making this come together for this, like I've just always been solution based. I've never like been held up on anything. It's like okay, like how do I figure this out? So that kind of speaks to the same effects of like I never question anything. I just always flow forward. So
Mhm.
there was definitely a point when I realized, like, you know, I was glad to realize, I've never had to, like, I've never been held up by any fears or held up by any doubt. But at the same time, and it kind of led me to this experience here in Australia. That's why, for multiple reasons, I've been led and guided here. Because when I got here, I experienced a sense of fear. So it was obvious to me because I haven't ever really experienced that. And what that was being this close to the ocean and being this just nearby the ocean and the unknown that's in the ocean and just the life that's within the ocean and just the unknown, like it kind of like had me a little uncomfortable to where like I grew up swimming, I grew up in pools, I grew up in lakes, I grew up in nature, but when I got here I felt a little uncomfortable, to where I'm like okay, like that's got to be fear. So with that being said, like from what I've learned from how you approach fear, the perspective that you approach fear from, like, and I've experienced uncomfortable situations, but I've always leaned into them, you know? But like what I've learned now is like if you experience fear or doubt or um, uncomfortable feelings, you have to go towards it.
Mhm.
So that being said, like I'm within a free diving class right now. I had my first weekend of the class, and in the next week or two, I'll make my first dive in the ocean. So I'm
That's
like,
dope.
I gotta run through this shit
Yeah.
because that's what I learned that you're supposed to do when you experience fear. So it's been cool to feel that within me. That um that kind of a little bit of overthinking, and it just comes down to the unknown, and just the possibilities and, just being immersed within the ocean. So at this point, I wouldn't, there's still like a sense of a little bit of uncomfortableness, but like I would say the fear is kind of taking a step back because I'm taking the steps to go towards it. So it's like now it's more like being proud of facing this and approaching it in a way that I would encourage anybody to approach anything where they experience question or doubt or fear or overthinking, because through my journey of like being there for people and being able to be someone to listen to people and to understand people, like I've had to do a lot of work of understanding, having negative thoughts, being depressed, being having anxiety, having fear, having doubt, because I've never had to experience those. I've never had to face those. And that's that's a testament to like how I was raised, the coaches and mentors I've had in my life, and just how aligned I've been with my calling and my destiny. But I've had to do work to really understand depression and anxiety and overthinking and fear. Like I've had to really like educate myself on those to be able to like listen from a better perspective and to be able to share my wisdom to those people who are facing that at levels that will encourage them and that will give them hope to endure those feelings and attack those feelings and be able to sit within themselves within those feelings. So a lot of my process of understanding myself deeper internally has been mostly based on attempting to understand others, because I've been in a good space for a long time, naively, unknowingly. So now it's like I'm kind of just molding it all together. And like I said, just making sure I can articulate it and speak on it from a tone to where it's received, because I've shared a lot and been there for people, and I don't think I shared it in the right tone. Not that it wasn't what they needed to hear. I don't think it was in the right tone, that it was received the right way and with the right amount of level of empathy, So now I'm in a good space to where I got that balance, and um, I just gotta lean forward, So it's been cool to experience some fear, and I'm proud that I'm leaning into it.
That's dope, man. Perfect answer. Before I let you get out of here, tell everybody kind of where they can find you on social media or any notable links that you might want to share.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I mean, I'm pretty active, just sharing part of my journey on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I pretty much share it the whole time. So uh, yeah, so Twitter, Instagram at Brandon Wood 30, Facebook, just search my name, Brandon Wood, LinkedIn, Brandon Wood, Anchor platform. You can search my podcast platform, Inside the Neighborhood, Spotify, Inside the Neighborhood, Apple Podcasts, Inside the Neighborhood, and YouTube. I have my own personal YouTube channel, which has been my platform for my conversations from my podcast. So, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Um, you can find me on any one of those. I just I'm just flowing, man. It's been organic. I just been able to stay in the moment. I haven't had to really like force myself on social medias. I haven't had to like really reach for nothing. So I'm just kind of, you know, letting it come. But I'm entering a space to where like, you know, there'll be a higher level of intention,
Hmm.
behind building specific platforms. So I'm just loving the journey and just continuing to guide as I can, motivate and inspire as I can. So feel free to follow me on any of the networks.
No doubt, man. I will link those up in the show notes. Appreciate you jumping on here, man. This was awesome. This was shoot, we going on 3 hours now. We're like Joe Rogan status out here, bro.
It's all good, man.
I love it, man. I appreciate your
Uh,
time, man. This is awesome.
yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for letting me come on, man. And again, happy for the platform you've built. Giving people the chance to share their stories, no matter what they're doing. So definitely respect towards that. It's it takes a lot to open yourself up we're listeners first, so you gotta
Hmm.
be a good listener before you're a good communicator. So, to just the fact that you're a listener, that you're able to open up yourself and be vulnerable and share parts of your story that you feel comfortable. Like, I understand the journey that you're on. We're both relatively early in the journey, but I definitely encourage you to keep leaning into that. And I know I'm going to keep learning, and I'm sure you're on a journey to keep learning and continue to hone this craft as well and this skill as well. So much respect towards that, and look forward to getting more and more familiar with your platform and checking out some interviews and just locked in. We're locked in now, so
Yep.
appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate it. And that was episode 18 with my man Brandon Wood. Crazy, crazy episode there. I really hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I learned a ton about Brandon and just his unique process and journey. And like I said, I just have so much respect and love for the dude to be able to share his story, help other people with his story and his perspective. And then also just the admiration that I have for him to continue to play at a high level and refine his game and refine his life throughout all of the ups and downs that we talked about in this episode. So, if you could do me one favor, whatever podcast platform or whatever streaming platform you're listening on, go ahead and leave a review. Let Brandon know how much this episode impacted you, whether it be positive feedback in the comments, leave a 5-star rating. Just leave Brandon some words of encouragement or some positive feedback so he can go to this episode and say, damn, I had a great impact on these listeners. And, I spent my time wisely by sharing my story because that's ultimately what I want to do is give people a platform for them to share their story and have people be able to appreciate that. And whether it be a story like Brandon's or strength and conditioning or basketball knowledge, I just want my guests to feel like they truly made an impact on my community, my listeners, and gained a community of listeners that are going to then follow them for the rest of their journey. So please do that if you can. That would be amazing. If you're new here, feel free to jump back to some previous episodes. We got some fire in the vault, in the archives. And yeah, I really, really appreciate your support tuning in and it means so much to me that you guys are supporting the show and listening every week. Hope to see you back here next week for episode 19. Thank you.